Welcome, dirty peasants, to episode 81 of Wartwood Gazette, the Amphibia podcast. This week, we'll be having our Season 3A retrospective. I'm your host, Limbaticon, and join me today we have Pickle,
Hey, you guys.
Impact,
Yo, what's good, everybody?
and Nick.
Hello.
All right, thanks guys for coming on. News this week.
Actually,
I think we do have some
we
news.
do.
Yeah.
We do have something. Actually, yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
I think we're thinking about
Do
the
we?
Matt Brawley. He did a little comic strip for the Sonic the Hedgehog Twitter account, and the Sonic team kind of like interviewed him about him being a Sonic fan, and they asked him like what he's working on right now, and he mentioned like he's overseeing a bunch of like shorts related to social issues. He's working on a movie that's in development, and he has a graphic novel coming out next year. And it's like, we know the journal did really well, and he did ask us what we wanted next on Twitter about whether or not we wanted an art book or a graphic novel, so maybe we're getting something?
Yeah. No, it's really
Maybe.
exciting news because it's like I honestly thought he was going to go into retirement. Not retirement, but I thought this man he would just disappear off the map for a few years, just relax after years of show running Amphibia. But no, he's like, I got what was it going to? He has like a graphic novel coming. He has a movie coming, and I think Tom, you said it was like another thing, but I forgot.
Like some sort of like I think short short
yeah, animated
series.
shorts.
Yeah, animated shorts about
Yeah,
social issues. That's what.
Yeah, he's going. So he's just popping off. Like I was surprised. I was genuinely surprised. Like I was both surprised and just exhilarated, but like mostly surprised because seriously, I thought like, that's a lot of work for a man who looked like he aged 20 years within like 5 years of running this thing. Like
Hey,
I was
be
like,
nice.
no. I was like,
God damn.
I was like, nah, nothing but respect from that. But yeah, no, it was insane. It was insane seeing this. Like I'm just really happy about this.
Yeah, like I'm.
I mean,
Oh, go ahead, Pickle.
I feel like we can rule out him working on an Amphibia movie right now. That feels like way too soon, and like, especially considering he did say that he wasn't gonna try to work on like a ton of Amphibia stuff all at once, all of a sudden. Now that the show has finally ended, or not that he said he was gonna like take a break in terms of that sort of thing.
Oh dang!
I don't want to get hopes up. I feel like graphic novel is most likely to have to do with Amphibia, but I feel like in general, I'm excited for whatever Matt goes on to make. But I'm skeptical that anything is gonna be Amphibia related in any major way for a long time, if it ever is.
That's a good point.
Didn't Matt didn't he like straight up leave Disney, right? So it's
Actually, yeah.
Did he?
I feel like he might have said that. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, I remember him
maybe.
saying something like that. He was like, "I'm out, peace." So like,
yeah. Honestly, it's really funny how that happened though. I feel like
It was Dana.
it was crazy
Was
because
it
I feel
was
like
Dana?
Alex,
I swear to God, he did too.
Yeah, because I feel like maybe he mentioned it in like some like random tweet. He was like, I feel like it was like I feel like it was just like in a reply to something. He was like, oh dude, I'm not even working at Disney anymore, or something like that. I feel like I saw a tweet from him like that, but I can't remember.
I thought it was like some sort of like get together. I forget what that they do like the Owl House like get together things on Instagram.
Yeah.
I forget what they're called, but like I remember him saying something like, "I'm not even working at Disney."
Oh yeah. Oh shit. Yeah, I feel like I faintly remember what you're talking about. Like, but I can just like I think it's called like a hoot. It's like hoot something, right?
Like
Hoot
post
something. Like post hoot.
Yeah. That's it.
Let me see if I can like. Ah man, now I'm gonna have to like honestly, I probably won't be able to find it real fast. But like, I do feel like I know what you're talking about. I do feel like there's a chance that he's just not working there anymore. Yeah, it's like honestly, it's gonna take me way too long to find out. But I think you're right about that. But I don't know. Like, either way, like whatever he's doing, it's just exciting. Like I think
Yeah.
just the idea because I mean he's a really obviously we're all massive Amphibia fans. I just think like yeah, he's just a really great storyteller. So like no, so you just know for a fact that like anything else that he comes up with is just gonna be its own exciting thing, especially just with what he's learned from working on Amphibia for so long, right? Like he's definitely picked up a lot of skills to make something even better. So man, I want to see what that future looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's all the news I have for now. I think we can just go right into the retrospective.
Here we go.
Dun dun dun.
Yep. So, so the way we can structure this is that we're going to cover the first bit of season like 3A. We called it the Cloakbot arc. So we'll first
Yeah.
start with talking about the new normal, Hop Till You Drop, Tie Feud, Adventures in Cat Sitting, Fight the Museum, Temple Frogs, Fixing Frobo, and Ants Terminator. Then we'll get into Turning Point. Then we'll cover the rest of the Earth episodes like Mr. X, Sprig's Birthday, Spider Sprig, Hollywood Hop Pop, If You Give a Frog a Cookie. Then we'll talk about Olivia and Yunnan, and then we'll end off with Froggy Little Christmas and Escape to Amphibia. So before 3A aired, very quickly, I'm just giving like a little history. Um, Before season 3 aired, uh, once True Colors officially aired, we got a sneak peek of the season 3 intro right after True Colors.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of gave us a lot of questions and a lot of answers. Like the 3A intro alone, it's like, oh, we're meeting like Anne's parents. Marcy's in a tube.
Yeah, she's alive.
She's alive.
Yeah.
History lesson. So, before season 3 aired, they aired the season 3 intro right after True Colors because Disney was like, wanted to show that Marcy was okay after that finale. We got to see her in the tube. We got to see that Anne and the Planners were staying with Anne's parents.
Yep.
Supporting characters. Action on Earth. And going into super mode. And the speculation, like, that kind of fueled us for quite a bit. And this was at the end of May. Then I believe around June or July, like, I think end of June, that's when we got like a poster featuring Cloakbot. And then a press release about like guest stars. Then July Comic Con happened, and we got like our first clip of Anne like going home and seeing the Boon Choys, seeing her parents.
Yep.
A bunch of news articles happened. Just talking about the new change in the status quo. And then we also got the trailer for 3A.
Yep.
I'm not sure if this was before or after that first clip with Anne going home.
That was after.
That was after.
That was after. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
The No Big Deal remix.
Yep. We got like a snippet of the trailer. Like I forget what that. I think it was like a Lightbox.
Yeah, it was at the
Expo thing.
Lightbox
We got like
event.
Yeah, it was pretty much the same trailer except like we didn't get the Darcy scene at the end.
Yes.
So,
and we also got an animatic of the Marcy Takeover theme song there.
yeah.
And they initially planned to screen episode 1, season 3 at the Lightbox thing, but because so many people like caught on about it, Matt kind of decided not to because of what happened
That's
with
a fair decision.
True Colors. I think it was a good
Man,
decision.
no, that was crazy. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
because that was
they gotta
crazy.
they gotta know that like really no matter what they do, someone's gonna sneak a camera in, and it's just not a great way to release an episode.
Not even a
Yeah,
camera. It was a
and
digital
like,
event, so like you could just screen record.
yeah,
Oh, okay. Right, that was
literally
I
anyone could
remember
do
that.
it. I think Matt was underestimating how big the show is getting. Like, I feel
Yeah,
like,
after True Colors fandom explosion and stuff like that.
yeah, I don't think Matt was expecting it. Like, if it was like, I mean, I'm not super sure. I wasn't there at the time, but I feel like if it was like season 1, like size of the fan base, you could get away with that a little bit. But, like, no. after True Colors and when season 2 was coming out, like, nah, you can't do that. You know what I mean? So it's yeah.
Yeah, it was just crazy because I think it was. I think I think that just made everyone realize how big the show was getting, and it was just yeah, funny as hell just looking back. And now it just went like, no, I don't know. This is funny because it's like, I feel like yeah, this was season 1, season 2. Matt dropping a tweet about Lightbox would probably get him like a couple hundred likes. You know what I mean? But after he dropped that announcement, you know, it's like he goes back to his tweet, like, what? He's like, what the? It's like 20,000 likes. Oh, he's like, where did this come from? like, that's what I feel like that scared him straight. That shit scared him straight. He was like, oh shit, okay. People actually like my show. like, like then yeah. I mean, the rest is history. It was still like a really good presentation. I mean, I think Film already broke it down. Like, we got a lot of good stuff from it, right? Like I think it was like the animatic, the trailer, just really awesome stuff that just got us all hyped. Like, honestly, I feel like even if Matt had to change up his plans, I feel like it's probably still exciting to him. You know, just knowing that there's a lot of people inspired by his show, right? A lot of people who came to that presentation to learn what it's like to work on his show, and also just yeah, just the fact that yeah, now there are people who care about his work. You know, that the people who feel really compelled by it, people who are really into it. So yeah, just all around, probably was like a super. I mean, hell, it was probably a super exciting time to be Matt Brawley and a super exciting time to be watching Amphibia. I mean, you guys already know. Like, you were literally watching.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we can get into the season itself. So to start off, these first couple of episodes, do we need to talk about the fandom reaction first, or should we just talk about we'll talk about the episodes themselves?
Let's wait. Let's fandom reaction. I think we need to save that as last. I feel like we just gotta talk about it, and then we'll talk about it last. I think it's gonna seep in when we're talking about it a bit, but
Yeah.
like, let's save it. Let's save it because it's important for this season specifically.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the start of the season, you know, the new normal sets up the new status quo of the show, and it's a much more fast-paced thing than the season 2 premiere was, because of how much they had to kind of like condense. I think there was a lot of comments about how this is a 22-minute episode, but it flew by really quickly. And I think by the end of the first night of the new normal, like the episode itself, that was basically half the episode already.
Yeah, I think like really my problem. Well, okay, like I would agree with you, Thumb. Like, to a certain degree, I feel like it's like the first 5 minutes that are more like pretty quick than I would say like the entire half of the episode. Because pretty much once we get to Anne's parents, like I feel like everything slows down, but like when handling true colors, the show goes like in 5 seconds and then we're out. Then it's like I think what's going on like in New Normal is that it's putting more time into setting up the rest of the season instead of like giving like natural like tonal like being a natural tonal shift from True Colors. It feels like a tonal jump. You know what I mean? Where it's like, okay, like how does Anne feel about Sasha and Marcy? Okay, she says this one sentence. You don't really know if she thinks she's actually alive or not. Whatever. Blah 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 blah. Okay, like then we're at it. And once we get to the Boon Choi's house, like things kind of slow down a bit. Like we're getting a better idea of setting up the rest of the season and like where we're going with that. Like even each line in New Normal like sets up an episode. Like the whole like Polly wanting to fix Frobo thing is like set up here, or like just pretty much every episode has like or like Anne mentioning like the government and secret agents or whatever, setting up Mr. X and shit. You pretty much could like pick apart each line in this episode and like it's setting up an episode, but like actually handling like the rest, the last like 22 minutes from season 2, like it kind of like hurries the fuck up. And that messes up a lot of things. We'll keep going, but like, yeah, there we go. Those
I
are my
feel
thoughts on
like
that.
I feel like I think the pace was fine. I think it really was the tone for me that I felt could have been handled better.
Yeah.
On a rewatch, I mean, last time I rewatched it, I didn't feel the tone shifts that badly, and this was watching it like a day after I watched after I watched True Colors. But I remember on the first watch being a little bit whiplashed. I think it was the tone for me of Sprig feeling very excited in the new world, and clearly was like shocked, but the rest of the planters and the tone in the like new world seemed to kind of carry it away from the like looming stuff. And I felt like it didn't quite like give the emotional reaction that I expected.
Yeah. And I
I
think
think that
like
they could have done it in the same amount of time and changed the tone, and it wouldn't have felt rushed in any way.
yeah, I think that's fair. I think like yeah, I think that's really the big thing for me too. Like I didn't want like the whole season to be like moody or anything. It was just more like naturally transition, still keep the stakes of what True Colors was doing a great job throughout season 2 establishing, and just slowly come back. Just slowly.
I like how painful that is for you to say. Like you're just in pain.
I know I know there are like kind of vague crew tweets that imply that there was some level of Disney control over the amount of like dark tone they were allowed to put in
Oh
season
my
3.
god.
But it's really like we have no
They
clue what was and wasn't allowed. And like we don't really
yeah.
know. Yeah.
Yeah, like that there's a whole misinformation pipeline with that. Where people are kind of like making shit up that like season 3 was supposed to be like completely different. Like
Yeah,
there's
that's.
a whole thing with that. Like but we'll get there when we get there.
I do think that like Handy Ann, Fort in the Road, and the New Normal kind of like both do a similar thing where they kind of like have like a couple lines relating to what happened last season, and then kind of just like keep going forward with what they're doing in this season. But I think
I think with
because reunion ended, like kind of resolved itself, it kind of made the start of the season more like fresh and more like of a palate cleanser, while the new normal's happening like
yeah.
right after True Colors. So it's like that leads to a lot of the like whiplash that people were feeling.
Yeah, that's yeah, you pretty much got it right. Yeah, I agree.
And it's really interesting how like we have like the lockdown scene in the new normal, and this was done before all of the COVID stuff happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty funny coincidence.
Yeah, because I think they said at the start, right? I think at the start it was resemblant of what was going on, but then as soon as COVID happened, I think that's when they said they really started pushing into that parallel that was going on. And it was interesting. Like honestly, I still don't know what to make of it. It's not like the whole season sort of became like that, but it was like, oh, okay, like this fun little quarantine song. Like, all right, I'll take it. Like I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I think like everything else in like the second half, I think is really fun. Andrea showing up is great. Like I love that he's
Mm-hmm.
still like silly. He's an asshole and he's a villain, but he's also like fucking around and wants a book that Marcy gave him. That book joke is hilarious. I love that they keep it like even with through Ant's Terminator. That's still like one of the best jokes. I don't care what anyone says. It's great.
I think
Um.
keep going. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. So like I'm done pretty much. I'm just gonna say the Andrea scene is great, and like they introduced Cloakbot, which is great too. So like this is kind of his first episode, and he'll get more. Cloakbot will get more time to shine. I'll talk about him when we get there. But this is kind of like the first time we're gonna get like we've had reoccurring villains before. I've mentioned this a little bit, but this is kind of the first time we've ever had like I think the term is like an arc villain for Amphibia, where we have like an antagonist that literally encompasses an entire arc of the show. They only stay in that part and they die like when that arc ends. They pretty much define it. That's why we're calling it the Cloakbot arc now. So like yeah, like so that was pretty neat. And everything with like the Asian like market, that was awesome. Everything about that was
Mm-hmm.
great. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah, there's like a lot of wow. Oh, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna bring up how like Anne's powers are kind of like are also established to be in flux, and we kind of see when when Frobot arrives and leaves the show is when it shows Anne's powers in this batch of episodes. Because I think we only see Anne's
Yeah.
powers in here, the new normal, and then Anne's Terminator.
Yeah. Like for this arc, you mean this arc specifically?
Yeah,
You
for
mean
this
like
like arc-ish thing. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's one other part of the episode that I remember for a long time there was a pretty major theory that Anne's powers were going to be in some way inherently evil or have some level of like negative control over her. That a lot of which was spurred on by specifically at the end of the episode she talked about how using the powers felt wrong somehow. And I gotta know, what do you guys think that actually meant with seeing how the entire show ended up playing out?
Yeah, I mean, I remember I made a theory that it was yeah because I remember us talking about this actually. Like I remember thinking back then it was God damn it. It was related to just Anne's emotional turmoil, right? Just her not uh I hate using like therapy speak here, but just unpacking her emotion, like her just like not really, like regulating or resolving that. And I think like yeah, it was just the idea that's it's suppressing her true strength, like what she showed off in true colors, and it was just it was just purely feeding on negative emotion that was just exhausting and draining her. That's what I thought.
Huh.
But I guess I mean, I'll get into this kind of stuff, but I think it did end up just being as simple as just like kept in the background. It's subtly getting stronger and stronger. If you're paying attention to her character arc, like there are bits like that, really exciting bits like that, really cool stuff. But I mean, there's gonna be stuff I'll get into later. Honestly, I have no clue what I'm gonna do it, but I'll just pounce on it. I'll just like Thumb will be making like Thumb will have like this hearty speech about an episode, and I'll be like, nah, Oh shit! I don't know. I'm joking. I'm joking. But like, I'll have something. I'll have something for later. I promise.
I think.
Personally, I think
Oh, Pickle, you go.
I think the line was, I think the line was foreshadowing how like the powers got stronger when all three girls used them together. I don't really know though. I feel like the only other time she mentions, oh, something's wrong with these powers is more of like she feels bad about using them in the three armies when she has to like get everyone's attention and she's like, I hated like having to scream at everyone like that.
Uh,
I think it's mostly like a testament to she's like a person using the powers for good, which is like a big part of she's like the first person to use them for good. Like it's kind of emphasized by how she doesn't actually like using the powers to hurt people and doesn't like having the powers like that.
I think Matt actually explained this on Twitter. So he's
Ooh.
commented on someone's.
Ooh.
I forget who it was. I think it was a fan artist who someone asked a question, and Matt was specifically saying it was, you know how like if Anne used all three gems, like she would die. It was essentially like setting up the idea that if you use too much of the gem's power, like you're not exactly designed to do that, and just poof as soon as you use it. So the bad thing was like using too much of its power, then you'll die out. So I think that was like the canonical, logical like setup to that. I think like yeah, I think it was like Cute Tanuki-chan that had the. She's like a popular fan artist, and like I think it was some comment where she asked. I might be getting the pronouns wrong. She, they. Sorry, it's apologies in advance. But like asking about like why did Anne describe the powers as bad if they didn't have an inherently terrible use? And then Matt answered with, well, because if you use the powers too much, or if you use all three of the gems, you'll die. So it's like, yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of this.
That's. Oh no, sorry. Honestly, I have like no point. I'm just like, just like.
Yeah, I was gonna say
go
like a
ahead.
lot of this gem stuff is gonna come back like for Escape to Amphibia, and when
Yeah,
Anne
yeah.
once Anne like kind of improves, kind of like focuses more on like the positive energy, positive vibes.
Yeah.
Like being powered off negative vibes makes her tired. Positive vibes, she's still tired, but she's okay. um,
Yeah. And it's like a fun reflection of her character arc, but we'll get there when we get
yeah. So I don't want to go too much into like the adjusting to Earth stuff. I think we can talk about it through the Boon Choice. Like, I guess first we'll talk about Mr. Boon Choi.
there. Oh, okay.
Um, we didn't really know much about him because the show like in seasons 1 and 2 kind of focused more on like Anne's relationship with her mom. We didn't hear much about her talk about her dad a lot, other than Anne versus Wild mentioning like a camping trip, or I think Handy Anne, or sorry, Fort in the Road when she mentions like their family road trips. But we didn't really get anything like substantial from Anne about her dad. So seeing him
Yeah.
here, and he's just like he's just a gamer. it's just he's so like he's so chill. He's cute.
Yeah, like he's just a little. No, he was just pretty much like a wholesome guy. Um, really had no trouble with Anne. Like him and Anne just they just fit together just easily, super easily.
Yeah.
Like they complemented each other. It's like, oh shoot, I was about to go on this. I was about to talk about Mr. Super Show by accident, but like yeah, no, it's really shoot. I hate to. I mean, I hate to say. I mean, I don't have much to say about him, but like I don't know. I really love them being there. I really love them being a part of the show. I love seeing where you can see Anne sort of gets that super sweet side from just I don't know. I'll admit, yeah, he seems like this very. I just love characters like this. Like they seem like this. You know what I mean? Like they're like the
Uh,
sweet, kind-hearted male character. They always seem some kind of simple, easy to bully, but then they just have that really infectious, sweet side to them. And damn, I'm really trying not to talk about like. Are we allowed to talk about like just okay? Yeah, this is like a general overview of season of 3A, right? So I can just talk about like Adventures in Cats I think right now if I wanted to, right?
Yes, you can.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just yeah, just there's just that 10 out of 10 scene at the end there. It's just I don't know. It's he might not have too much to do in 3A. Damn, does his presence really felt solid there when he gets that amazing scene, right? And it's just sort of going in circles, but I don't know. I love the guy. I love the guy. Like his arc isn't as big as Mrs. Boonchoy or Anne's, but I do think his presence there it does leave a lasting impression.
I think like
Yeah.
for me, like it's a little hard for me to talk about the like one of the Boon Choys without talking about the other.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like it's a little difficult. I think Mr. Boon Choi is interesting because he doesn't have like the same beef that Anne has with her mom. You know what I mean? Their relationship is just good and solid. And like one thing to consider is that like Anne is starting to kind of relate to her parents a little more. Like a big thing about this season is that like Anne is starting to like play caretaker, right? We're in a role reversal now. I'm surprised we didn't even mention that yet. Like we have like a whole role reversal of like Anne taking care of the planters, which is like, the planters used to take care of Anne and Amphibia. And this gives Anne a chance to kind of like play a caretaker role like her parents did to her when she was a kid. So she's starting to kind of relate to like her mom and her dad a little more. So it's like Anne is starting to just appreciate her parents more throughout the season. And it's more so towards her mom specifically, because again, they're the ones with the most conflict. But her dad is really important too. Like if we go like all the way to escape to Amphibia, like he says like one of the most important lines in the show. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's I think with the Boonshoys you have to kind of talk about both of them, but like yeah, Mr. Boonshoy is great. I think he's great for comedic relief. I think it's nice for like Anne to have like just a very like chill parent, I guess. So I think he's great.
Yeah, I'm glad Nick. I was hoping someone would bring up the Adventures in Cat Sitting scene because of this role reversal. Like it's kind of just spelling it out to you. Like the planners took care of Anne, and you don't really get like the show doesn't really have the characters address that other besides Anne herself or the planners just talking about like how like Anne's part of the family, whatever. So having someone like outside of their like core cast, especially like Mr. Boonchoy, kind of like talking about how they looked after Anne is such a big deal for that episode. And then that kind of like impact started getting into like we're completing a cycle in the show. Planners looked after Anne, now Anne's looking after planners. And this season really is like putting Anne back into the I don't want to say spotlight because Anne's always been like the star of the show. Like it's really making Anne the one who's sort of like defining the direction of the series at this point. She doesn't have like hop hop kind of like giving orders on like going around town and going to Utopia. It doesn't have Marcy giving the temple quest or temple destination arc. It really is like and sort of like picking up the pieces of True Colors and like trying to like figure out what to do next. And it's a really interesting direction for Anne after everything we've seen from her these past two seasons.
Yeah. I think that like the version of Anne we see in season 3, and also a little bit of Anne at the end of season 2, is kind of the Anne that we see the most. I feel like the most people remember, most sadly. But like going back, looking at season 1 episodes and season 2 episodes, and then seeing season 3A Anne really shows that she's very different. And I think that like this agency she has over her own thing is like a is something wouldn't have made sense to her character back in season 1. Or like if they had it, she would be a very different character. Anne had always had the box, the the box as kind of
Mhm.
the pushing part being gotta charge the box, gotta get home. But then after season 3, that whole point is now gone, and there's some pretty obvious things that the show still needs to clear up. So it doesn't feel like suddenly there's an absence of plot plot progression or anything like that that needs to get done. But it definitely, at least to me, feels like Anne kind of gets the choice of the next part of the show, of where the next part of the show goes, which is like a responsibility she can actually handle now. She in fact needs to like have it reeled in at multiple points in season 3A.
Yeah, because it's a point now too where like in this season, like I think one thing 3A does a great job in is still giving Anne legitimate challenges even after all of her character growth. I feel like a lot of times with many cartoon protagonists at this state, they would like kind of be at their like top form the entire season. Well, not season, but like after like a point like in season 2, their arc would just kind of like stagnate where they would just sort of like use their growth and then that's it. But 3A is doing something really unique where Anne's growth inadvertently like not like causes her problems, but are things she's still challenged even when she's applying her growth from Amphibia. Like Anne's trying to be a caretaker to the planters and hop till you drop. She's doing like a good thing of trying to keep them safe, but she's ultimately forcing change upon them way too quickly. And like change takes time. You can't just force that upon people. And that's because of her own perception of her growth in Amphibia. Now she has kind of like a flawed viewpoint of it. Or like Fight at the Museum, where Anne is taking her responsibility too far to a point where like she's stressing herself out. She's not getting enough sleep. Or Anne's Terminator, where like she her lying to her parents inadvertently causes a lot of conflict with them. But it's not like Anne is being a bad person because she was trying to protect the planters, but she still ultimately lied to her parents about the whole thing and she didn't cover it up in time. It's complicated because Anne's Terminator isn't necessarily Anne's fault entirely, but there's kind of like a sense throughout, or even like Mr. X, where Anne thinks that she's got this and her parents don't need to help her, but that ends up being proven wrong. A lot of Anne's like preconceptions of her growth or herself and her own growth throughout the story is challenged. It's her finding maturity with her growth from the last 2 seasons, which is again, that's really cool. Like that's that's usually done for like sequel series. I feel like for characters like Am, where their story would be over and then like you would expand this character's arc in like a sequel or a sequel like show or something. So I like this a lot. So yeah.
And like with respect to her parents, like a lot of when Anne gets challenged, it's usually Mrs. Boonshoy that's kind of the one doubting everything that's going on, and she's the one who kind of takes more time to kind of accept where Anne is at the moment. Because when you look at the beginning of the series, like Adventures in Cat Sitting, like Mr. Boonshoy was super welcoming to the planners and kind of being grateful for them and treating them as a guest, while Mrs. Boonshoy was kind of just like, "Yo, let's just give him to the police." and
Yeah.
and even we see in like in Thai Feud, she's still hasn't really warmed up to them yet. And I just wanted to talk about Mr. Boonchoi first because I feel like most of the stuff involving Anne and the parents is kind of between Anne and Mrs. Boonchoi.
Her mom.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm really struggling not to go on a tangent about Thai feud because
I mean, like, if you want to do it, I mean, like, I wouldn't mind.
Sprig was right.
He was right.
Sprig had every right to ruin that man's career. Like, I think Nick, I remember you said it best, but I just want you to say it again. I'm not sure if you remember. Just like the situation.
Yeah, like because it's just like he was protecting his soon-to-be family from this man who harassed the parents of a missing daughter. Mind you, 4 months. She was gone for 4 months, right? Like they're
It was
grieving.
5. It was 5.
Yeah, for 5 months. They're grieving. They felt terrible, and he would come to them every day asking them to go. Well, he was basically appropriating their culture. Like he would show up every day trying to appropriate their culture while they're in the middle of grieving. Like I don't know, I feel like I said this way better last time, but like he was essentially just harassing them about this new business venture while they're in the middle of grieving. They're grieving for their daughter's supposed death. Like seriously, like he had no respect for them. And then as soon as he comes back, he's just like, "Oh, hey, and you're back." And he's like, "Anyway, can we set up time? No." And it's like, he's like no respect. He had no respect. It was like everything bad that happened to him that day, he had it coming.
To be fair, Sprig was not doing it because he knew what harassment and cultural appropriation was. He was doing it because he really wanted a mom. That episode was about Sprig's mommy issues, to be honest. I wish they had said it out loud, but like it was obviously about Sprig's mommy issues. We have to agree on that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And while you're talking about the grieving part, it's such a minor thing, but I love how the show can't really, because of the like the demographic, they can't really go too much into the show, the parents grieving for Anne, but they do kind of address it with the Tupperware and how the Thai community like looked after the Boonchoys while they're going through that time.
Yeah, and even with like the which is a little like I wasn't sure how I felt about like the doll joke in Anne's Terminator. Where,
Oh my
like,
god, yeah.
yeah, I don't know how I was a little like I wasn't sure if I should have been laughing about that. I was like, whoa, I don't know. that joke felt really weird.
And the back of the
like
door
like
of that workout room, it stopped at 87 days.
yeah, like I don't know. I'm not super sure if that should have been a joke. Like I always debate about that myself. I'm like it's like it doesn't like it's good for the plot. Like yeah, like but like I was like that felt a little like I don't know.
Like the show, like it was like it felt like a dark joke that the show was treating like it was just like a funny thing.
Yeah, like it didn't feel like it took it like seriously, and that felt weird. Like yeah, like it's a little odd. It felt a little tone deaf. Like if I want to be honest, like which I feel like might be a common pattern. So
yeah, I gotta hold myself back. I gotta. I was joking. But
I mean, Nick,
I'm half
honestly,
joking.
Nick, honestly, like I want to hear what you have to say though. Like I am genuinely curious. Like
I mean, this does connect to like a larger problem I can probably bring up later, but it's just I feel like I ended up swinging in the because just when it comes to shoot, because I know we're gonna talk about like the larger critiques later on by the end, but just like yeah, when it comes down to just my own thing of 3A after like God almost 2 years, it's just yeah, I think it does end up just feeling pretty light compared to the other seasons, and I don't just mean in tone, you know, I mean just like just in terms of like negative. Yeah, just in terms of like it being a miserable experience. I just mean like it's like there's just not enough weight to a lot of these stories.
Oh wow.
I feel
Okay.
like for me at least, when I just look back at season one and season two, there's just like a lot of moving parts. You can really just feel like these stories, they feel really dynamic. They feel really filled of like life. There's a ton of stuff going on. I think the fact that 3A, I have my own theories for why it was handled the way it was, just based off of like all the interviews Matt has done. But just yeah, I think the fact that like a lot of stuff is just sort of put away to just create this happier mood for the season. I do think that just ends up creating some gaps that feel like wow, we could have used this. Like we could have used this development. We had like I feel like we had so many theories going in that just felt so obvious, right? This felt that just felt like okay, this would be the perfect time for them to do this, and then they wouldn't do it, and then we were just. And hell, I'm not even talking about I'm not even talking about Marcy and Sasha. Like, nah, screw those two. I'm not even talking about those two. Actually, it's like it's really just related to the planters. Like, I can feel like in an ironic sense for
Ooh.
me. I'm like, okay, I feel like the planters they could have been traded better here. I feel like the planters and Boone Choi as a unit they could have we could have used a lot more stuff. That's how I feel. We could have used a lot
I
more stuff between those two groups. That's how I
I
feel.
think I think when I think about a subject like that, I always think of like how in Ant's Terminator, Mrs. Boonshoy is like not super sure about everything, and then the next episode they're like perfectly in on the whole thing. You know what I mean? Like that
Yeah,
always was like a little weird. Like I was like, it felt like the show was setting something up with that. Like it felt like oh like Mrs. B is not like super sure about like helping out the planters in this whole thing, and like obviously she still wants to help Anne, but like there felt like there was something going on with that line of like I don't know. She says something like I don't know, isn't all of this a little too much? And I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting. I wonder how they're gonna expand on that. And then like they really don't, and it's a little weird. Like it felt like there was like a scene missing. Like in Mr. X or somewhere. Like I don't mind the parents like being like hyped to do it. I feel like that makes sense. It just felt like there was like a gap missing in between. But
yeah,
then again, like I think the show does explain it a bit. Like it's just like I don't know. There's I wouldn't agree that the stories are smaller though. I'm not sure I agree with that. I feel like Anne definitely still is having like a legitimate compelling arc. And there's still like a lot of really good shit going on in this season in general that's especially really different. I do think some of the planter stuff is a little off, but like
yeah,
yeah, when we get to the second half of 3A, I think that's when I'm going to start railing on them because
yeah, yeah,
I got
yeah.
some problems.
Yeah. It honestly really is just. I think it. I think it really. Yeah, because I just scroll through the episode list right now.
Like,
Okay, honestly, yeah,
Yeah.
there are some moments. I think they're okay. There I won't lie. There are some stuff. Honestly, I guess it really is just the entire season. Never mind, it's not really the second half. Like it's because honestly, before I let you go real quick, it's just like yeah, because I mean, I think the amphibia trauma. I mean, honestly, yeah, I know I have a very unique stance. Like I'm like, yeah, I personally, I don't think I don't think 3A need more amphibians. I'm like, I'm like good. I'm good. I'm full on the amphibia stuff we got. But like, yeah, it's just yeah, like I already said, yeah, it really is just the planners, just how they were, just how their stories were handled throughout each of the episodes. Like it just how it all just came together in the end. I did
I
feel like there were quite a bit of stuff missing for me
I
personally.
think like I think like for me it was like Like, I think like Hop Till You Drop is kind of the point. I'm not sure if it's new normal or Hop Till You Drop, where we get like, I like to call hive mind planters, where like it does sort of feel like they're all like
No, don't say that. That's
but
illegal.
like
That's illegal.
but like I'm
That's
just
illegal. Can't be
saying
saying that.
there's definitely some points where it feels like I think the writers sometimes have to like put like the planters in like a blob as one character to make like Anne's story work, which I don't think you need to. I just feel like sometimes that does happen. Like, I think there's some
Yeah.
episodes that do it better than others. I think Fight at the Museum does it better. Like, I think like, but like some episodes like Anne's Terminator, the planters are like they are a blob. Like they are they are a blob. Sorry, dumb.
Hey,
I had
hey,
to say it.
Vaughn, Spring had that nice scene. You had that nice scene at the end of the start.
That's true. That's true. But like,
Is that the episode where
Yeah,
like Sprig is about to reach some ice cream?
yeah, for his coffee ice cream.
yeah, the ice cream, and then like once we get to the robot, it's pretty much just Anne and her parents, and then the planters are kind of just like getting Anne in trouble, which is fine. It's just like they're kind of like filling the same role, if that makes sense, like in the
Yeah.
episode. You know what I mean? And I think this even happens like in Escape to Amphibia and maybe FLX. Maybe I feel like it's a little handled better there. But like, yeah, there's definitely a point where kind of grouping them together. I think like, yeah. I will say
Yeah.
Fixing Frobo is great though. I love that episode for Polly. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I hard
Yeah.
disagree with this take specifically, especially
Ooh.
because of Polly. Like Polly has
Here we go.
like
Ooh.
definitely the biggest arc in this season out of any any part of the show. Like season 3, I think is peak Polly. Season 3A.
That's true. That's actually no. That's
fair.
true.
That's
That's
fair.
true. Yeah.
That's fair.
No, that's actually facts. That's actually facts. Like there's so many good Poly moments in this season. Like, I mean, you can't forget that. Like I remember I had that small clip of Anne putting a hat on her and her just giggling. I had that. I don't know if I still have that, but I remember I kept on reposting it, and I get everyone just loved that. But it was nice. But go ahead.
Yeah, I think like Fixing Frobo is really good. I think like okay, I think I'm gonna be more specific. I think the first half of 3A, I think, does have some good episodes for like all three of the planters. It's when we get to like the second half with Mr. X, where I feel like Spider Sprig, Hollywood Hot Pop are kind
Don't you
of
dare.
like
Not Spider.
I'm just
Don't you dare.
saying, I feel like we're retreading old ground with the characters. I think like the first half of 3A, solid. It is starting the hive mind thing, but I don't mind it too much because I think it's working out and we're getting some good character exploration off Anne. It's not like a point where it's like this god awful thing. I don't even think it really ever gets to that point. But it definitely like I think the second half of 3A does sort of have a hard time giving the planters like their due. Like Polly doesn't get an episode in that second half, like at all. You know what I mean? And like, which is fine. She got one in the first half. We don't need her to get another one necessarily. It's just like I do feel like Spider Sprig and Hollywood Hot Pop retread old ground for the characters a bit. So yeah, there we go. I think that's more specifically. I think the second half when we get to the Mr. X arc. I think I'm skipping around a bit, but like the Mr. X arc for the planters gets a little like I don't know. Like I wanted a little more. So that's it.
I mean, honestly, that's just how I feel about Mr. X in general now. Like, if I'm mask off, I'm like, Mr. X was like, you were there. Like,
We'll get to
like
him. We'll get to him.
Oh, okay. I got you. I mean, where are we even now? We're still on the first half of 3A. Like,
yeah, we were on.
Okay.
we kind
jumping
of
around.
hopped around Fixing Frobo and Exterminator. That's fine. I think we covered.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think we should probably get into I think we should get into the supporting casts
Okay.
of the season, because I think that kind of helps like link up the plot together. So far we had kind of in the past we had the town of Wartwood. Those were kind of our supporting characters that showed up once in a while. This season doesn't really have that since they're in LA. It's a big place. All the people we're meeting sort of have a purpose in like helping Anne get back to Amphibia. So who we meet so far, like at this point, uh, Dr. Jan,
Yep, Dr. Jan.
Dr. Jan, Allie and Jess.
Yep.
I think those were the only two so
And
far.
Ned.
Not
And who?
Ned.
Oh, Ned. Oh, okay.
Ned was kind of
Doesn't
like a
count.
one-off. Like everyone else kind of came back, but Ned really didn't.
Yeah.
And for
Thank
that,
God.
we are all grateful.
Yep.
It wasn't that bad.
No.
I didn't think he was that bad either, to be honest, but it's funny.
It's nice. I hate him.
Yeah, exactly.
But like, I think it made sense for like the townies to be like the LA townies to kind of have like a more sort of direct effect on the plot, if that makes sense. Like don't get me wrong, like characters like Wally and Toadstool like had a role to play, but here it's much more direct in terms of what kind of like
Yeah,
expertise they bring, like what they bring to the table. Like Ali and Jess engineers, Dr. Jan history. We'll get into Terry and the others later,
yeah.
but it makes sense for like the setting they're in. They're not in like a small town like Wartwood. And this season is much more serialized than the past two seasons. Like with the way they meet Dr. Jan, how she shows up later in Temple Frogs to give a clue, how Frobo gets fixed, like how like you have Cloakbot hanging around. And there's a lot of like threads, and there's a lot of stuff where like one episode kind of leads to the next.
Yeah, and like that's a weird misconception out of the season that like 3A is super episodic. I always am like, did you guys watch the show? like genuinely, like 3A is definitely the most serialized part of the show. Pretty much every episode leads to the next. Or if it grows a character in some way, that character growth leads to the next episode in some big way. Like you can't skip an episode in 3A, like straight up. Like it's pretty much always moving the story forward, or at least establishing a character that's going to be important or anything. So like, yeah, like even with Cloakbot, like Thumb, you made the great point. Like, so with Cloakbot, he first is established to be able to track Anne's blue powers with his like radar thing or whatever. And then in that episode, like Anne like punches Cloakbot in the face. That radar gets removed. That's highlighted to the audience. So like Cloakbot can't chase her that way, like when we get the fight at the museum. So he has to like use like the Wi-Fi and stuff and like figure her out through the security cameras, things like that. Or like Cloakbot tracks like her
Frobo.
phone signal or something like. Oh, wait, did I say that?
No.
I
Like,
said...
sorry, I kind of interrupt you, but like, he uses different ways to track the planners. Like, Fight the Museum uses Wi-Fi signals. Temple Frogs. I think same thing.
He uses the. Well, he kind of like what he does is that Anne calls Dr. Jan, and then like he tracks like the cellular or whatever, like he tracks where Anne's phone is because she's using it to call Dr. Jan.
Yeah, and then
So-
in Ant's Terminator, he uses Frobo once he gets reactivated to track him to the house.
Yeah. Yeah, so Cloakbot's always using like different methods of chasing Anne, and that's all because like, you know, he doesn't have the tracker anymore. So that plays like a big beat into like the rest of the show. And like you even see Cloakbot like not slowly get destroyed. I wasn't a big fan when Anne like decked him in the face and he was like perfectly okay and fine at the museum. But then like Anne's Terminator, he's all fucked up. I don't know. I would have liked if they transitioned that a little better, but still, like him still getting like destroyed a bit and fight at the museum. Still, like he still has to like repair himself, and you see like all his broken body parts and stuff in that next episode. So like each plot point is connecting to the next one. Even jokes come back. Like the book joke with Andreas, like that's all the way from New Normal, and it comes back to Anne's Terminator. Like even the jokes are serialized. You know what I mean? Like I don't know where this idea that like Rie was episodic came from. Like that's just straight up like not true.
I
So-
think the reason that it feels that way to a lot of people is that everyone we meet in season 3A and even like the planters don't feel nearly as plot connected. Like they get plot connected, but because we meet them for the first time in the series, and I'll expand on the planters being that later. Because we meet them for the first time, we've got less reason to care about them the way we've already grown to care about the characters back on Amphibia. So it can feel kind of like a drag, being like, oh god, we have to meet a new character. I just want to see our old characters.
Yeah. No, I get that, especially when you meet someone like Ned. Like, sorry, I just stopped talking about it. But just, no, but I think that's a really good point, actually. But shoot,
I think for like for some characters, it's like, wow, this character really stands out, and immediately I'm a big fan. Like
Yeah.
I like I really liked the RuPaul character purely on like funny basis, like haha, it's RuPaul, Mr. X, I mean, and then Cloakbot I really liked, but I feel like a lot of the characters aren't super complex. It's not like I don't think any of them really get arcs, so they never feel
Yeah.
super emotionally attached to us, or for us to be attached to them.
Yeah, I think.
I do. Nick, you go.
Shoot. I mean, yeah. I guess there's 2 points I want to make. I think just really quick. Yeah, I think like were you just describing like the serialization of 3A? I think it really is. Even so, I was speeding up. I was beating the shit out of the season like 20 minutes ago. I mean, it's like a really unique. It's a really unique feeling that. Yeah, it gives like a really unique feeling to the season that you just don't get from any other season of Amphibia. Because yeah, when I think about 3A, I just get this like weird, fuzzy feeling of like, wow, it really is its own unique thing. The fact it's the only arc that takes place in a solely different location. Look, you have like pretty much like it threw away its entire cast and gave us a new one, right? And you just and yeah, there's tons of like callbacks, tons of like just fun new, just they're just going about their stories in like totally different ways. It was just really exciting to see all that because I think like season 1 and season 2 they feel greatly episodic compared to this. Like I feel like I totally agree there. Like a lot of people just like a lot of people being unfair. A lot of people are being unfair. We're gonna address their complaints later, but they're just being unfair. But yeah, but Pickle, just go back to your thing. I think you're about to talk. Actually, I think you're about to say something. Go ahead.
It's got a lot of parallels to season 2A. I mean, season 2A does almost exactly the same thing, where it's an entirely different cast all of a sudden. The main difference is that it's kind of a gradual change, because first it's, back in Wartwood reestablish the status quo after the finale, and then it's like, oh, we're going a little further away, but oh my gosh, we still run into Wally, how surprising, and then we really get fully into Newtopia arc, full new characters. But I feel like the big differentiation between season 3A and season 2A is that we meet Marcy and Andreas in season 2A, two characters that'll continue to be vital to the show for like the entire rest of the show.
Yeah.
And then in season 3A, a lot of those characters have their moments in season 3A, and then we don't see them again until the season finale, if we see them at all. So it feels like they get a lot less. They just don't have the same amount of time for us to really
Yeah,
love them and suddenly become attached to them.
That's a good
yeah,
point because I
yeah.
feel like, oh man, because Marcy and Andreas are like it's hard to kind of compare like like any GA
Yeah.
character to Marcy and Andreas. You know what I mean? I
Hey,
see your
well,
point
this
though,
is
Pickle. I think
the Boo choice. The Boo choice.
well, I mean, even then,
Moon Toys are good.
like
Ooh,
they're great.
Oh my
Yeah,
god, I
yeah.
was so
some
salty.
fandom. Some fandom.
I was so salty when the Moon Toys didn't stick around for season 3B. I'm so sad that they didn't come with.
I know why they didn't do it though. Like I get I feel like they needed to explain it a little bit more in the episode because like the logic made like okay. I think we're shifting a bit to Escape to Amphibia, but like there is a logic to it, like writing wise, or like why you wouldn't want them to show up. I'll save that when we get there. But like it was like I will say it was a little weird because they don't really explain it in that episode. I remember like on the podcast, like we had to like debate like not even them coming, like even letting her like go by herself in the first place. You know what I mean? Like that was always a little weird about Escape to Amphibia. I'm not gonna lie. Like again, it makes sense, but like it's weird with that episode.
I think excluding the fact, I feel like if you acknowledge the fact that it's a cartoon and she has superpowers, and that's obviously not a situation any other 13-year-old would have find themselves in, it like makes sense as a conclusion to the Boonchoi's arc of accepting that Anne is responsible now and can actually take care of herself and the planters.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So,
Mm.
should we talk about? Is there anything else we want to bring up for Ant's Terminator before we talk about Turning Point?
I think like
Uh,
I think
midpoint.
but
No.
I kind of
Wait, would
agree.
you say
But like,
midpoint?
What? Damn, this guy was
Okay,
joking. What the fuck?
no. I got something to say about Turning Point. I'll save it. I got something to say. I like that episode. This is I'll go. But what I wanted to say though that is like I did mention Cloakbot a little bit. I do think like out of it's interesting because I think like this season was like mentioning like this is kind of the first time like we've throughout this entire season we have like 4 major antagonists. We have like Cloakbot and Mr. X, and then we have of course like Andreas and the core, right? And this is really unique. We've never had like a point in the show where like we've had this many villains like in like counteracting or fighting against our heroes.
yes.
Usually it's like some monster of the week like situation. You know what I mean? Like we've never had to fight like entire army of like Terminator robots or like have like a whole arc just for a villain specifically. And I just think that was really unique to the structure of it. I think 3A is like does this way better than 3B. And I'll get to them when we get there. But like I think it was nice to have villains like Cloakbot sort of be like a fun like reflection of like Anne's problems in the narrative. Like in the sense of how Anne like handles her responsibilities and how she's always handling them a bit poorly. Like she's stressing herself out, she's ignoring her parents. Sometimes she's also having to lie to people to like keep other people she cares about safe, which is like a fun reflection of like what Hop Pop had to do too, which I wish the show acknowledged because that's a really fun point. But like it was really interesting to have a villain like Cloakbot who could actively like challenge our heroes' perception of their responsibility and their growth. It's really cool. Like I think Cloakbot added a lot to like Anne's overall story, being like a reflection of Anne handling her responsibilities the wrong way. And in order to defeat Cloakbot, she has to handle them properly. So I don't know. I think that was like Cloakbot was a really cool villain for Anne, even if it doesn't have like a narrative. It's not like Cloakbot has like a ton of personality. You know what I mean? Or like is like a narrative foil to Anne or anything like that. It was still like a good challenge for the character. it still gave Anne like it made Anne have to grow as a person to defeat that thing. You know? So I like it. I liked his appearance. I like that Cloakbot wasn't there for like too long. He's there for like 5 episodes and then he's out. And like that's all you need for him. You don't need him to last like 10 episodes. That'd be a stretch. That'd be stretching it. But like 5 was like really good for him. So yeah, like I like Cloakbot a lot. Here we go.
All right, thank you, Impact. And I know you guys brought up that Mrs. Boonshoy was kind of like unsure about everything going on, but I think at the end of the car scene, like when Anne's asleep, she kind of embraces the planners and about like solving this whole issue thing together. So I think that's when I kind of understood that Mrs. Boonshoy was kind of on board with all the stuff happening, if that makes sense.
That's
Yeah.
fair. Yeah, that's a good take. That's a fair take. Okay. I feel like I'm gonna say I agree with that. I'm gonna take back my take. That's a good point. I didn't think about that. That's a good point.
And unless you guys have something else to say about like overall like pre and Terminator, we can go into Turning Point. I'm just gonna put a timer for 5 minutes and take a nap.
No,
Pi- pi-
before
yeah.
we go on to Turning Point,
Oh, okay.
I gotta do something positive. I went too soon. I started beating down the season too soon. Yeah, I think this. I do think there are some spots where I could point out like my obvious overall issues with the season, but I do think like I do think this is still like a very solid opener to the whole Earth plot. Like I still really enjoy these handful of episodes just because I don't know, again, there's plenty of moving parts to keep you interested. And I think like darn it, it's so hard to make a point without like going on to like my issues, but it's just I think damn it, just to get it all over with. Yeah, I do like what the planters bring here in this first half. I do think like it does feel like sort of a problem that when it comes to praising this season, when it comes to like talking about like it's like what makes it just like when you're defending the season, right, from like any negative critiques, it does like I do notice that you do have to rely on Anne quite a bit. Like if I'm into that, like, you do have to really rely on Anne. I do think like because of that. And shit, I was supposed to go into something negative. I'm sorry.
No, it's alright because I
I'll
think
talk about this. We can talk about this later.
Keep going.
Oh, go
Like
ahead.
I want to hear this.
like
Okay.
wait, Nick. Before you go on, I just want to say like I did have some thoughts about like what you guys said about the planners being kind of a little hive mindy, a little like a blob.
Yeah.
But then you guys kind of brought up Polly, like how like Fixing Fro was a really strong episode.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I do understand like the planners are kind of like all 3 of them are in the kind of the same like similar situation. So there are going to be moments where you have them all kind of like react the same way to like stuff they're discovering on Earth. But you do still have those like moments where they are kind of like not at odds, but they still have like their own unique dynamic where I think which episode was it? I think it was Thai Feud
Like
where
Adventures in Cat Sitting.
yeah, Adventures in Cat Sitting, and then also Thai Feud. I think was this the one where like Sprig's being kind of a bum, and then like around the house, and then like they have like that little meeting where they kind of like get Sprig to behave.
Oh yeah. Thai Feud. Yeah. That was Thai Feud.
So it's like even though like
that was a great.
that was a great scene though, because like I think it was like Hop was like, oh, just because Anne's a planter doesn't make you a Boonshoy. Like I don't know, it's just such a like a really like it's nice to see like the planners kind of like acknowledge that they're guests in the house. Like actually, they also did that in Adventures in Cat Sitting, but just like
Casting, yeah.
I like how they set up that boundary for the parents in a way, kind of like they're like, okay, they treat Anne as one of their own, but they're like, they still acknowledge like, oh, that doesn't always reciprocate, so we have to be kind of like professional about this until they decide to accept us. Like I thought that was just like an interesting scene.
Yeah, man. Oh yeah. Also, just God, yeah. You bringing that up. Just yeah. Also, just an Adventures in Cats and just that opening scene when like Polly and Hop Hop are just chilling. Like sunbathing, and then I think yeah. Again, yeah. Hop Hop just warns him. He's like, hey kid, we already been here for what did he say? For
Two
whole
days.
Yeah.
And then like
Spring's like Hop Hop. Yeah.
it's been 2 weeks.
Spring's like Hop Hop. Yeah.
It's been 5 episodes.
Yeah. Then he spits out his drink. Then he spits out on Polly. It was just, it's a great moment because I think, yeah, it really just reflects their different personalities when it comes to yeah, just when it comes to Earth and like, God, so really, that's why I think, yeah, Adventures in Cat Sitting. I think, yeah, that's definitely just up there for my own episodes. Also, just
Cousin Stanley.
Yeah, Cousin Stan. God, that's one of my
Stanley
favorite
was
jokes
great.
from the whole show.
Best Amphibia
That's
character.
yeah, literally that is like one of Amphibia's greatest jokes, hands down. Like I love that. I go back to that joke like every now and then. But yeah, man, it's like yeah, those moments were really what helps 3A thrive, in my opinion. Just yeah, they really help. They really help. Just alongside of like all the juicy development going on of Anne, just stuff like that. Yeah, it really helped keep some of the episodes just feeling really dynamic.
And I will go
It's
into
just
more. I'll go into it more with Hollywood Hop Hop and Spider Sprig.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay. It's
Okay.
gonna be so.
Okay.
You're gonna be defending those episodes, and
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait,
I'm
Nick,
excited for that. But go ahead.
I got a question because, like, you were saying, like, I think you cut off a little bit, like, when you were saying, like with this season, like, you have to use Anne specifically. Like, what do you mean by that? Like,
Oh,
Maybe,
you have
yeah.
maybe we should say that for the end though, because once we get to Escape
okay,
to Amphibia.
all right. Because I'm interested in that.
Yeah, but I
All
think
right, I gotcha.
I think for now, just for time's sake, we should go into Turning Point, and
Yeah.
this is kind of like we're picking up where what happened right after True Colors with Sasha. Yeah, that's all I gotta say.
Yeah.
No,
Oh, okay.
Nick, time us for 5 minutes so we don't get lost in the weeds. Seriously, just set up a 5 minute timer. Like you're allowed. Just give us 5 minutes. Like, or we're gonna be here. We're gonna be stuck here for 2 hours. Let's do this. Turning Point. I don't. I'm just gonna say it. This a funny ass thing about Sasha was, I swear, there was like this famous, there's like this popular idea with her in like the community before this episode. It was like any episode Sasha's in is a guaranteed banger. Like you knew the
Yeah.
Sasha episode, you were like you're guaranteed for high quality, and it's just funny to me looking back how when Sasha finally funny to me. So I mean, it revealed, it exposed what certain people were only watching the show for. Like,
What do you?
I'm not judging. It was just funny. Dude. I just remember some people abandoning the show when they're like, "All right, Sasha fell off." Like Sasha fell off.
Nah, hold on.
Didn't
Whoa,
say
whoa,
that. I don't
whoa.
remember
Okay.
anyone.
Nah,
Yeah, I don't remember that either. What are you talking about, Nick?
Nah, I
What are you
can't. I
talking
can't say
about?
the name. I can't say their names. I can't say. Legally, I will not say their names. I plead the fifth. But like,
Wartwood Gazette shut down for defamation.
but like, yeah, no. I think if I have any actual points, man, like shit. I don't know because I think I've gone over this episode. I think like I do like I think honestly I have like nothing new to say on it. I'm just like
Oh, yeah.
I'm just like, well, no, I'm just like, well, that happened. Like, just like that Marvel humor. I'm like, well, that happened. And I'm like, I'm like,
Nah,
this is the
nah,
episode of all
nah.
time.
Hold
All
on.
right,
All right, hold
Nick,
on. Hold on.
take a breather. Let these guys talk. Let them cook.
Hold on.
Okay, all right,
Okay. All right.
all right.
Okay. Like, I, I guess I'll go. God damn. Okay, like Turning Point is like so Turning Point was an interesting episode for me because like I think Turning Point's a little like I feel like controversial, if that makes sense. I feel like well, kinda. I feel like the problem with Turning Point is that it just feels like it goes too quick in the first few minutes. That's it. That's my biggest problem with it. It feels like the show has to like hurry the fuck up. Like Sasha has this like see Marcy get stabbed, then it's like doing it in fast forward, and then she has to like jump out the castle. Then she's on Joe Sparrow. Then she's on Wartwood. It's like, well, chill. Like you gotta calm down a little bit. That's pretty much this episode where like it feels like it's simply like either I always debate on this if this episode needed to be like 22 minutes or not. I think you easily could have rewrote this episode and just made it 13. Just like chill out at the start and like you're pretty much good. Because I think what Turning Point's trying to do is like maintain the narrative momentum of True Colors, but it feels like it has to inadvertently like try to do that while also moving Sasha's arc forward. And it's hard to do both in 11 minutes. You know what I mean? And it like the start of its episode, like I feel like I'm starting off complaining about this episode, but I do think it's important because like I think Turning Points is just simply like really fast paced, but it has like a ton of great moments to it. Like the that ends now, which is like when she reads the journal is great, fun reflection of like end of discussion. Grime calling out Sasha's bullshit is great. Like her fighting against the town is great. Like her like not wanting to go with Grime's schemes and stuff. That's great. There's a lot of like great characterization and moments out of Sasha in this episode. Her beating like Bessie and Michelangelo. That's awesome too. Like these are these tiny short scenes. Turning Point's doing a great job with like characterization of Sasha and showing off her growth. And I think it comes at a great point. Like Turning Point is trying to continue the narrative momentum of True Colors. So it's the second episode, right? It's the second episode after TC, right? We get to see them how Marcy gets in the rejuvenation tank. We set up Olivia and Yunan. You know what I mean? Like that first part needs to be there, you know, to set up the Olivia and Yunan, which I got a lot to say about that episode. A lot of great things to say about that. But yeah, I think Turning Point is just one of those episodes that just needed to like slow down. That's it. It's got a lot of great moments. It has a lot of like great things for Sasha's arc. I love like Anne being an inspiration for Sasha to be like a better person and to grow and evolve. I like her growth being in Wartwood, which is a fun reflection of Anne's growth. That's great. I love Sasha like faces her consequences and her emotions on the situation head on. That's great. It just needs to slow down. That's all I asked of Turning Point is to just chill the fuck out. just a little bit. But again, a lot of good character moments there. So yeah,
I'm gonna be
that's my
honest. I disagree with all of you. I think
okay, cool.
it's a perfectly fine episode.
Ooh.
I think
Cool.
I think originally when I first talked about it was like, man, this episode sucks, but really it doesn't. It's fine. I think it's on par with most other episodes of Amphibia. I think the real difference is that it's not as good as the other Sasha episodes.
Yeah.
I think it's a solid B tier episode, and everyone was just salty that it wasn't like S tier, S standing for Sasha, of course.
Yeah. It killed the Sasha episodes with
I
Keep
agree.
Fixing track.
I agree with that. I'm not gonna lie. When I was like, because this is like the climax of Sasha's arc, right? I'm
Yeah.
super hyped. Like here we go. Like Bale's Warhammer was like my favorite episode of the show beyond like True Colors. So I was like, oh shit, like this is gonna go like even crazier, and then it wasn't. But like I still liked it. I was just kind of like, oh, I wish it just slowed down a bit.
Yeah,
But
I
like
agree.
it's not mid though. Like it's still like an 8. out of 10, like 8.5 out of 10 episode. Like it still like stands up with like Anne's Terminator or like Fixing Frobo or any of the other big episodes in 3A. It's just Sasha episodes could have a different like standard to them. Like
Yeah,
to me,
they got a different vibe.
yeah. And I think like, you know what? Turning Point gets really saved by 3B. Hardcore. It gets like supported a lot by 3B showing up. I liked it way more once we got more of Sasha's arc. This episode, like even like her stuff, like I know like I'm not going too much into 3B, but I will say that like a lot of the things make more sense. Like even like her not mentioning Marcy that much, like that actually works for me once we get to like the finale and stuff. So like even then, like I feel like Sasha does mention like Marcy, like she specifically screams out her name and then hopes that she's okay. You know what I mean? Like so I didn't get the vibe Sasha didn't care or anything. I heard that complaint going about that episode a few times. I never got that vibe. It just seemed like Anne was like more crucial to her actually growing as a person. You know what I mean? Like with Marcy, she could like sulk and like cry about losing her or Percy and Braddock or whatever. But Anne was kind of like the big moment for Sasha to realize that she could grow as a person, that she could change, and using her as an inspiration to be better is like a huge part of her arc. You know what I mean? Like there's a reason Sasha blew up once we get to the second half of the season. So, but like, yeah, I don't know. Turning Point's still a good episode. It's just my least favorite. So, I don't know. Third Temple is. I think it's above Third Temple. There we go. That's better to say.
All right, let's go. Let's go.
Whoa.
Well, I said it.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Like, I like Third Temple. Okay, I do. I just feel like Turning Point has more like bigger character beats for Sasha. Like even with the journal scene, I wish was a little better. It's still a good scene. Like it's still a major character beat for Sasha's like whole arc. I think I think Olivia and Yunan does a better job of having a transition, like having a transition scene where like you have that one moment that defines the character for the rest of the season. Like I think Olivia and Yunan does a better job. Absolutely. Like we'll get there when we get there. But like I do feel like overall it's still really solid. So like yeah, I would put it above Third Temple. I mean, yeah, I'm willing to say that. So
all right, I like that. Honestly, I have like no clue where I put this episode, but I'm just like, yeah, definitely just in the I guess lower end of Sasha episodes for me. But I think it's just dang. I think part. I guess I have my own thing again, but it's just like like the damn episode. Okay, besides the journal scene, like I think I already cleaned up about it before here. Like I'm just like, I'm like, okay, I really wish. Like I liked it until she started talking. Like I think I already said that.
All right, yeah, I got a take on that. Keep going.
I really got
I get what you mean.
Well, should I keep going?
Thumb, you go.
Like I was gonna kind of like. I don't want to. I think we should keep moving on, but I just wanted to bring up that I kind of get how Turning Point moves a bit quicker because season 2 kind of like showed Sasha go through the motions of like grief and like denial and all that stuff.
Yeah.
After reunion.
Yeah.
True Colors is basically like the same pattern, except like amplified, and the consequences were even worse. And Sasha being like a 13-year-old was kind of like scared straight. Not really, but
yeah,
but like it kind of just like it's like things got so bad that Sasha was finally like, oh, yeah, I need to be different.
Yeah, I mean, shit, like I want to add on to that because I think like yeah, because I'll even say you can sort of yeah, like you can sort of feel that even the dinner battle of the bands like it no because literally like I feel like yeah, it's why I don't know if I ever talked about this before, but something unfortunate happened after those. I'll make this quick, just so we don't spend too much time on it. But just something unfortunate that happened is that like after those episodes came out, like I think like less than a day after, we got the trailer for True Colors, and that just destroyed any conversation on that. And to me, it always felt like when I went back to those episodes, I realized, wow, those two episodes really just showed us that she's just this dumb child, has like no idea what she's doing, and I think like that aspect of Sasha was sort of lost when it comes to just like
That
yeah, like
wait,
yeah, she just. Oh, go ahead.
wait, what did you say, Nick? You said she was like I
So like
didn't
I
hear
think
that
the
part.
fandom I think what
Oh, yeah.
Nick's saying is
Did I cut out?
the fandom kind of like didn't really have time to absorb the fact that Sasha was kind of like in over her head and
Yeah,
was kind of
yeah,
like
pretty much. Yeah,
treating
yeah,
and
just
was still
yeah,
kind of treating Amphibia as like another like chessboard
yeah.
for
Like
her
Oh,
own kind of
just
like
yeah,
ego.
yeah.
yeah, and it was also just very important for these episodes just to show that okay, yeah, she really is just this is like okay, even though she can do all these things, she's still just this normal teenage girl, pretty much, right? Like just literally, like she threw a temper tantrum when Anne didn't want to go along with the plans. Like she literally just like, I see you guys, I'm going home. Like right, like there's that energy there. Like she's like when you put away all the fantastical elements, she's just this little 13-year-old girl, and I think like yeah, all of that is just why like I wasn't really like I understand all the complaints of like of Turning Point being too fast, but yeah, it's also it's just why I'm like I'm not like angry that they basically made that whole the Turning Point just take one episode, right? Like, because it's just
I
she always had the capacity to change. Like it was always there. Like she was, I feel like she was always. Hell, you could say it might have been like there's less of a jump she had to make compared to like Anna Marcy. Like you can even say that. I don't know. I got my hands
ooh
up right. I don't know. But you can even argue that.
ooh.
Like
I think
she
like
was always on that.
I think like that's a good point. I actually agree with you, Nick. I think Turning Point comes at like the perfect spot. Like I didn't think that like the rest of the season didn't set it up. I literally just think it's like the first few minutes where like they have to kind of hurry the hell up a little bit. They have to kind of get Sasha out the castle. And like I don't know, there's sometimes a part of me where like I like Turning Point. Like I don't feel like it's like a bad episode. In fact, I feel like a lot of the fandom kind of predicted all the events already of Turning Point, like even before the trailer. Like get like going on Joe and like going to Wartwood and stuff. Like we already knew like with the intro she was going to Wartwood, but like
Yep.
how get out the castle, Joe Sparrow, right? That was literally the easiest option. Like it wasn't like some clever solution or like they had to like sneak out of the castle. They just jumped out the window and then Joe got them. Then they
Remember
left.
that whole argument if whether or not Sasha got knocked out the window in True Colors?
Oh, that was so stupid.
Oh
That was
my
so
She did
stupid.
it.
god.
She
Yeah,
totally
Oh,
did it.
I
she
hated
did.
that so
She
much.
did. But like it was clear. Like if she got knocked out the window, we would have saw that. Like in True Colors. You know what I mean? Like, and I kind of wanted like narratively, I want Sasha to see Marcy get stabbed because like funny out of context, but like in the sense of like it's important to the character's arc. You know what I mean? Like seeing the consequences of her actions, and that's the stab, right? Sasha never explicitly says it, but I know when like Grime was like asking, since when did you care about like you used to always lie, cheat, and scheme. Like when the hell did you gain a conscience? And then like Sasha's like when I saw the consequences, and that stab is the consequence. Like it matters to her story. She may not state it, which I get why. Like even like Disney censors aside, you know what I mean? Like I get why they didn't mention it specifically. Like even I don't even think they need to explicitly. I actually kind of like the idea of the stab not being mentioned. Like in the sense of like there was like a lot of cartoons, like I remember like even Spider-Man the animated series where like mentioning like character deaths, they wouldn't be able to like explicitly say it, but you know what they're talking about. That's the vibe I got out of Sasha. Like with like in some shows, like what is it? Like that uh whatever. Anyway, point is that like the point is that they would allude to a character death, but they wouldn't show you. They wouldn't say it, but like you would know. That's what I always got the vibe with like the consequences line. So it does feel like really important to the character's piece that she does see Marcy get stabbed. So like her jumping out the window and not seeing it would be really weird. So
I
there we
think that
go.
calling it like Marcy's consequences getting stabbed is like
Oh wait, no,
not a,
no,
not
no.
a
No. I
not
worded
quite
that
like
wrong. Oops. I meant not Marcy's consequences. Sasha's consequences for her actions
Okay,
inadvertently
that makes more
also.
sense.
There we go. That not Marcy's. That's different. It's not Marcy's fault she gets stabbed necessarily. It's just more like Sasha ultimately trying to gain power over the relationship eventually leads to a snowball effect of Andreas getting the box and Marcy getting stabbed. There we go. I said that wrong. So yeah.
Okay. Like, I think we should move on to. I think we can go into the next part of 3A, and we'll have plenty of time to talk about like the Sasha stuff once we get to 3B.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think I'm just gonna kind of start off for like Mr. X, Sprig's birthday, Spider Sprig, Hollywood Hop Pop. If you give Frog Cookie, because I know you guys kind of like brought up like your thoughts on the planners like
Yeah.
earlier on the season. So I like Mr. X as an antagonist because I think I mentioned it before, but it's like as Anne matured, she's kind of facing a more like childish antagonist. Um, I'll leave it at that for now. But stuff like okay, Sprig's birthday. I think everyone kind of agrees that this is like a solid episode, a very wholesome
Yeah.
episode, and I like. I'll save another point for later. But Spider Sprig. Okay, I know. Let me get comfy. I think Spider Sprig. Okay, the resolution for Spider Sprig was a little bit meh,
Yeah.
and just I don't want to get too much into the episode like specifics, but the idea of Sprig kind of like Sprig idolizes Anne's like progression from like local freak to town hero in Wartwood, and he kind of wants to replicate that. That alone makes me like make me see the value in Spider Sprig. I can't really see like I can't really call it like a pointless episode. And I think it's really interesting because we've seen the parallels between Sprig and Marcy. And seeing Sprig kind of like want to become a hero and loved and beloved by the people in LA does feel to me like a lot like what Marcy was trying to live, the kind of life she was trying to live in Amphibia when she got there. Except with Sprig, I feel like Sprig has a lot more of a Sprig's like a more like simpler guy where like he can kind of like he wouldn't try to rationalize I think the consequences of his actions once things get kind of serious. I do like
Huh. I think like I do think with Marcy in that's a good comparison actually because I've noticed some cool things with them too. I think no, Thumb, you keep going. Keep going.
I just want to like bring up like I don't want to get too much into the specifics of the episode, but it's just that I feel like that and Ty feud, I think, show a lot about Sprig's character more than the fandom kind of picks like more than the fandom like would want to talk about. I think at least with Ty feud, I think people like after Hopping Mall, people kind of like make that connection and kind of like understand where he's coming from. But I think for Spider Sprig, it's like he wants to be he doesn't want. I don't want to say he's jealous of Anne. Like he adores Anne's like journey. Okay, I think I'm kind of repeating myself. So I think I have that's all I have to say about Spider Sprig. It's that he wants to be like
Oh,
Anne, but he kind of acts like Marcy in this episode.
huh. That's an
Hopping.
interesting like spin on that because it's like, oh, sorry, Thumb, did I cut you
No,
off?
that's all right. Um,
Oh,
Hollywood
I
Hop
was
Hop.
saying like,
Oh, okay, go ahead. Impact. Yeah.
okay. I was gonna talk about your because I think with Spider Sprig, I absolutely agree that like having a whole episode with Sprig wanting to mimic Anne's like heroic journey in Amphibia is a really unique like concept for an episode. That's awesome. I just feel like this is the thing. I don't really dislike Spider Sprig like a lot or anything. I just wish there was a little bit more to it by its resolution. And you even mentioned it, like with like Robert Otto is kind of just like attacking Sprig, and he's like just trying to like not die. And Molly Joe's like, "Oh my gosh, you're so selfish, Sprig," and I'm like, "Well, what is he supposed to do?" Like, and like there's more to it than that. But like, I don't know. I always felt like Spider Sprig was like a really. I feel like its message could have been something a little bit more interesting. Like, I liked the concept of Sprig trying to mimic his big sister, but I always thought it would have been interesting for him to like figure out his own identity as a hero. That's like, and he kind of does, but I feel like I would want the episode to be more about Sprig getting out of Anne's shadow and like preparing him for when he has to leave her at the end of the piece. There's like a ton of potential for an episode like this. Like, and I feel like Spider Sprig doesn't do that. It kind of like it has a really cool idea, but then its resolution doesn't really do anything really interesting with it. So I don't dislike Spider Sprig. I still think it's a fun episode. And like Robert Arto's pretty fun. I like him. He's goofy, he's silly. He's a Saturday morning cartoon villain. He's great. But like, I don't know. That episode was always like I didn't think about it at the time. I remember me really enjoying it like a lot. But nowadays I still really like it. I just think that like there's a could have been kind of feeling with it to me.
I do want to point out that like when you said about like Sprig kind of figuring himself out without Anne, Matt did mention in the interview that's like that's something that he wanted Sprig to figure out like outside like by when the series ends, that's something he wanted Sprig to
Yeah.
figure out, which is like a
Yeah, that's exactly why I mentioned that. Because it was like, well, if that was the case, then why not prepare him to do that? You know what I mean? You have a whole episode right there.
but then
That the
3B
whole setup could be
yeah, but
like
then 3B kind of like once you get in the beginning, the end, and like Sprig starts thinking about it, it's like this would be a good
that.
topic for like a Sprig discussion.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I do want to bring something up though, because yeah, you guys didn't really think about it. Just when we talk about just when the show talks about because yeah, Thumb, you basically said like, and sorry, this was Sprig trying to act like Anne, but she ends up just being like Martian. I think it's just really just that again. Yeah, you know, what? I'm gonna try and support this episode too. I think it really just goes back to that sort of under discussed but really interesting theme of just dreams coming with consequence. And I think like with Amphibia, there's like this really interesting distinction between like those who just. I feel like with the planters, you can say. Honestly, I don't know how to properly word this, but I feel like you can also just make this argument for there being goals versus dreams amphibian. I feel like with dreams, you could just make that like just desires that are taken to that are taken in a selfish direction, right? Like you have characters who try to just go around necessary steps to get what they want, and they face punishment for it, right? Like they just ignore the natural order, they ignore how things should be, they just try to just do whatever they can selfishly to get what they want. I think like with goals, it's just like I wish I had like better terms to define this with, but I think I just find it interesting that you can sort of save the planters. I think this goes to a lot of stuff. Like I think this also just applies to like okay, this is 3B territory, so I'll just make it quick. But just with like Leaf, just how she talks about how you should open your heart to experiences, just live your life, and just let things flow. I think like yeah, I don't know. That just reminds me of how you go about goals themselves, right? Like you plan ahead, you plot things out, you slowly go beat by beat, and I think there's just this feeling of like at least to me, that's what the planters really do represent in the show versus whenever you have a character who just yeah, like I said, just like selfishly prioritizes whatever they want through their dreams. Like I wish I worded this way better, but like you guys get what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
you guys pick
yeah.
up the vibe? Yeah. Like it's I don't know. I think that the Spider Spring discussion, I know Spider Spring, I'll admit it's not the best representation of like, these themes. I still really love the episode. But yeah, I don't know. You guys just made me think about that. I think that's like a really interesting part of Amphibia that's like, not highlighted as much. Just so yeah, because there's this other side of the coin, right? There's just this other side that's not really talked about. I think like it's just again going off topic, but I think it's just really heartwarming that it's like everything always comes back to the planters, where it's just like they've all faced adversity, but they're all still there, just opening their hearts to life and just taking things slow, right? Just really going through things and just yeah, I don't know. You guys just made me think about that.
And going back to the planners for Hollywood Hop Hop, like I know a lot of people bring up like Caravan named Desire as a kind of being like a retread of it, but like
Yeah.
in like in that episode, like Hop Hop lives out his dreams, and it's like it turns out to be like he has to give it up because not not out like he doesn't have really a choice because like the traveling gang are a bunch of thieves, but like here he actually like he when he gives it up for Humphrey, it like he has more agency in his actions. So like he's the one who's kind of like deciding when to like at least here it feels more like authentic or more sincere.
Yeah.
Wait, does he have a choice? Because like Mr. X is still chasing him down, right? Like one of the reasons why like Mr. X can find Hop Hop in the first place is because he's famous as an actor, right? Like doing all the commercials and stuff. Like, did he have a choice
Oh,
there? Like, if he went up to the water tower, wasn't he screwed? Like,
because I was thinking about like how like Humphrey kind of like gave him the same kind of kindness that like Hop Hop would give to someone else. And then like when Hop Hop auditioned
oh,
before Humphrey, like he got the role, and then he was like kind of like paying it forward.
okay, I gotcha.
But yeah,
I
like
still think there was
I
certain,
do get what you mean, where it's like it would kind of
yeah,
conveniently like got them out of Mr. X's like crosshairs.
yeah.
Yeah, I think like yeah, I feel like yeah, there's just so I haven't rewatched the episode in a while, but did Hop Hop realize that Mr. X was chasing him at a certain point or
Yeah, he did. He knew he was chasing him. Like he got
okay.
a golf cart and everything. He knew he was chasing him.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I think I'm still 100% with Thumb on those points, though. Just I think, yeah, I think he does end up willingly letting this role go, because I think there is a point in the episode where I guess even if you could argue like here's where he could be screwed, but I still feel like with Hop Hop it's just like I do think at that point when he does give up the role, he does feel like I think at that point he's like okay good I made it I'm at this point I'm safe, right? I feel like he made that decision when he ultimately felt like he was actually safe. So I think like I think like that just I don't know. I think that just kind of shows, right? Yeah, even he had like
Oh,
at that point, honestly, I wish I had I wish I had the clip on hand, but yeah, at that point, there was a point where he thought like, okay, I finally got away from Mr. X, I'm good. Let's see what I'm gonna do with this now. Then he saw Humphrey, and I think like, I think
that's a good
yeah,
point. That's a
yeah,
good point. Yeah, because like it's not like okay, that's a good point actually, because like it's not like Mr. X like I mean like no, Hop Hop doesn't know specifically enough about what Mr. X is going to do to like know that getting Humphrey the role is going to get him away from Mr. X. I think it's a wait. Well, I don't know. Actually, I gotta rewatch the episode again. I feel like it might be a little vague because it feels like. Well, okay, no. Here we go. Hop Hop's motivations are not based upon avoiding Mr. X. It's about just giving Humphrey the chance to be an actor. And I feel like Mr. X is more like a reason for Hop Hop to kind of recognize like maybe he needs to focus on like his family, at least right now in his life. Though again, it does feel like to a certain degree he is forced out of it. You know what I mean? Like against his will. So, but not
yeah. I mean,
entirely.
that's fair. Yeah, I no, that's fair. I think it's yeah, I guess it's mad. I do think that still is kind of there, but I don't know. I guess I just feel like, and I'll admit, I think Hollywood. I think I'll always defend Hollywood pop up on that, but like I'll admit, it's not my favorite episode on it because I think like it's just there isn't that huge of a story for Hop Hop involved here. I'll admit that. I'll admit that. But I still really just love that ending, where just him just being able to finally let this thing go and just like yeah, just I don't know, just be there for his family, right? And just like I still think that's like a worthy. To me, I feel like that still gave the episode its right to exist. Like I'll defend it to the death
The
on that.
right to
But
exist.
yeah.
I feel like
But like,
argument of whether or
God,
not it was like an important addition to, or if it was really valuable to Hop Pop. I feel like it's still, you can't deny that it's just kind of like a fun episodic episode.
yeah,
I
it
mean,
gave us
Yeah.
that
unless
callback
it's
to
like
right.
a
It
film
gave
like
us
it,
that
in which case, your opinion's your opinion.
yeah.
Yeah.
Even
I will
it gave us
say,
that great
like,
callback. So I like.
yeah, it gave us a lot of good callbacks. Hollywood Hop Hop has great continuity. Like,
Yeah.
it's referencing all the movies and stuff we've seen, like, Anne and the Planters watch, like, throughout the season. That was pretty cool. Like, I'll give it that. That was clever. I like that.
And I do like how, like, going back to the planners in 3A, I think it does sort of. I think with Polly, it's easy to talk about her in season 3, where it kind of like unlocks like a new side of her. With Hop Hop, it kind of gave him a bit of closure of what he like once dreamed of being, and then like lets him like move on from that.
Yeah.
And then with Sprig, it kind of like season 3 kind of gave him like the adventure he always wanted. Not well, actually not one. They never knew he wanted, and sort of
Yeah.
like let him experience like fame as like a frogman, and gave him a mom, another mom. Um,
Did give him a mom.
I mean, like that's.
I mean, he's right. He's right. Like,
Right.
He's
He's
right.
spitting. He's spitting. He's spitting. He's right. Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
he lost the mom
Don't
again.
say it. Don't say
It's
it.
it's like
I mean, that is what happened.
Yeah.
Like, they can't go back to Earth. Like,
Yeah.
it's Joker. Like,
it's like so the players like I do think the players did have like stuff that sort of like added on to their characters. Like their time on Earth did like lead to something that they would carry over that carried over I guess just for their character in general. And then when you have like if you give a frog a cookie, like yo, these guys are way too hard on it.
yeah, yeah. That episode is
like that
if you give a frog a cookie is weird, man.
like I kind of get how like the honeymoon phase has worn off for them. But then they start guilting Anne hard. Like, come on, like no.
like they start guilt trip. This straight up manipulation. I was like, whoa. Like it was a little weird because I feel like I don't know. Like I felt like with how Sprig was like. Because, like, I think a great thing about Fight at the Museum is that, like, all the planters are advocating for Anne to get some sleep, stop over stressing yourself. You know what I mean? Like, they're the ones giving the lesson to Anne in that episode. Like, they know how much turmoil Anne has gone through of taking care of them, and yet they still do it. And I don't know. It feels weird. It made the planters seem like assholes to a certain degree. Like, I get it to a certain point, but it did feel like I don't know. They felt like the planters knew what they were doing. You know what I mean? I wasn't the biggest fan of that. Obviously, they aren't like malicious. Obviously, it's just like I don't know. It always betrayed the planters as a little bit mean, if that makes sense.
And I do think like it's not. I wouldn't say it's out of nowhere because like we've seen season 1 and 2 where like the kids kind of do that with Hop Pop sometimes, but it's like.
Ah, that's true.
But then the thing is that because of season 3, like Anne's kind of like alone on this, because usually she'll have like Sprig with her, like so they'll both be kind of like little shits when they go off and do their side adventures. Like, but like here it's like
Yeah.
Anne's kind of alone. Like, and when it happens to Hop Pop, we're
Yeah.
just like, oh, Hop Pop's like the grandpa. Like, you know, it's Hop Pop. You know, like.
Yeah, he busts his chop.
Remember when Spring and Polly were just like, "Oh yeah, when we get home, we're gonna slap Hop Pop." Like for Coiler's Pass. But I think I interrupted Pickle.
I feel like I wouldn't call it malicious. Like I feel like it's less that it. I mean, they kind of make a joke about it at the end, but I feel like it's less that that they're like trying to guilt trip Anne into doing nice things for them, and more that they're just sad, and then Anne is just feeling that way by like not necessarily because they totally meant to make them sad about it.
I do think it is interesting from Anne's from an Anne character point of view because I think with her when I first watched If You Give a Frog a Cookie, I thought it was like character regression a little bit. I was like, huh, that's weird. Like Anne was usually pretty good at not playing for people's wants and desires. But I think this is a bit different than Sasha's because the planters aren't Sasha. They're not in the sense of Sasha's manipulation versus the planters guilt tripping. It's a bit of a different situation because Anne is having to play caretaker, and it's more like Anne having to learn to it's not Anne being peer pressured into doing something she doesn't want for her own sake. It's more like Anne having to put her foot down for her family's sake, if that makes sense. It's a little different. I wouldn't I feel like I wish I could word this a little better, but it's it's not the same peer pressuring as with Sasha, because with Sasha, it's entirely Anne trying to make sure Sasha isn't mean to her or she loses the friendship. So it's for herself, it's for make sure that she's okay and that she keeps her friendship with her. But For here, it's more like Anne has to be a bit more like selfless and put her foot down to protect her family, if that makes sense. Even if they don't like it, it's the right thing to do. You know, it has like a different vibe to it. Hopefully that makes sense. Like, yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's like I think it's a fair perspective. I think, I guess for me, I guess it's like another unique stance I have of the episode. I think for me, just the fact that it is a very gag-ridden episode, everything really is just played for comedy. I think that
Which
does save me from being mad at the planters, but I think I absolutely understand where you guys are coming from because it definitely it it just feels weird. It's a placement here. It just feels weird, especially when like yeah, this is the group that's really just supposed to be paying attention to her feelings, especially when she's like
yeah,
sacrificing so much for them too.
yeah. I mean, like, I think the episode's placement is it's still like good. Like in terms of like, because okay, one thing to keep in mind about if you give a frog a cookie and it comes out immediately after Olivia and Yunnan, we figured out everything that we know about what's going on with Sasha, what's going on with Marcy in the castle, right? So like the placement of the episode makes sense, you know. Yeah, like in terms of like the timeline of events, because now since we know everything's going on in Amphibia, we also know how to get back, right? That's the time where we gotta like hurry the hell up. You know what I mean? Because shit's going down over there. So I think the placement is fine. I think with the planters, it is a little strange. I think maybe what they could have did with it was like naturally set up the planters being a little bit more antsy, if that makes sense. Like even if like Hollywood, yeah, in Hollywood Hot Pop, the titles are so big now. I feel like they could have established like Sprig and Polly being like bored of Earth, and then like Hot Pop is like the last one. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, that's fair. Um, and if you give a frog a cookie, we meet Terry, and we kind of get the mystery of the Skip Man solved. And we don't need to go too much into like the details of it, but like, because I know we covered it in the episode recording, but it's like, actually, I don't know what to add on to that.
Yeah, me neither. To be honest, I do like the. To be honest, I do like it though. Like it always took me a minute with the Skip Man, where I was like, oh, like it wasn't like it was interesting how the Skip Man as an object wasn't really important. It was just more like I guess that was always the case where like it was more like where it came from because like I felt like the way they described the Skip Man in like what was the Gravity Falls episode?
Wax
I
Museum.
forgot the name of it, but like
Wax Museum.
Wax Museum. There we go. Like I feel like in Wax Museum, it was always emphasized and was emphasizing like, yo, this thing is old. It is ancient, and like it's not that old. Like for her, it's like super old. You know what I mean? So I always thought it implied like someone like older, like went to Amphibia at some point. I don't know. Maybe there was like a older trio or something. I don't know how that would work, but like, but now, right? Because obviously season 2, you don't know how everything functions. You never know. So, but like now at 3A, it was kind of like, oh, like it was more like the object doesn't really matter. It's where the object came from. You know what I mean? That was more important, which again still mattered because it was on Earth. But like it's not like the time matters. So I always liked the Skip Man. I think it was like a good reveal. It was simple, relatively so. Like it's interesting that Anne never actually figures out where the Skip Man came from, but only the audience does. I don't know. It's kind of funny thinking about, but yeah, that's it.
Okay, and I think we can, and also we meet Terry, and she's kind of like she helps. She's the scientist of the group, and that adds on to how they get back to Amphibia, um, which is nice.
Yeah, Terry's great. I think they're what's the word? Like I think I wish we got a little bit more Terry. Like I felt like them and Dr. Jan were both like kind of the biggest players into getting back to Amphibia. So, but I think Terry gets some good stuff in Escape too. That I wasn't too upset about it. 'Cause I think Dr. Jan gets the most. She gets like Fight at the Museum. She gets FLX, and she gets like Escape. So it's like she gets quite a bit of episodes. While Terry gets like they only get 2.
Yeah.
So it's but again, it's still a good character. I like them a lot.
So I think we can get into Olivia and Yunnan. And I know we have a lot of thoughts about this. I think the Darcy stuff we'll save that for later. I think we can talk about more of the
Oh wait, one more thing.
Yeah.
Like, well, you're cutting out a little bit.
How about now?
Dom, did you hear me?
Oh,
I think he's cutting out. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it's just the signal now. But
Oh, okay.
we'll
I was
talk
just
about
saying, like, did we talk about Mr. X? I just realized that, right? Or are we
We-
gonna wait?
oh shit.
we kind of did because we talked about like throughout the 3A stuff where about the parents getting involved,
Oh,
the chase scene. Like we covered most of the main points about it. Mr. X, I know you guys like. I kind of just gave my brief thoughts on Mr. X as a character, but in retro, like we can still talk. I think we still have stuff to talk about for him
oh,
in Escape to Amphibia.
yeah.
And-
I'll save it. I'll save it.
And also,
Yeah.
like, we kind of didn't talk too much about Sprig's birthday because I felt like I had a point to make up for it in Froggy Little Christmas.
I gotcha.
For the sake of time, I think I was just going to go into Olivia and Yunnan. We'll try and avoid talking about the Darcy stuff that happens at the end. Maybe just like whatever is established in the episode, like the core being, introduced, and how it was, where it came from, that we know of. How the episode was kind of from Olivia and Yunnan's perspective. Marcy's kind of like brief reintroduction. And then sort of what's going on in Amphibia while our main cast is away from it. I think those were the main things I kind of want to just. I think we should cover and leave it at that. I guess I can start on the status quo very briefly, but we see Amphibia is being drained of its resources to kind of like fund this imperial conquest, and we see the effect that's having on the world. I think that's like really great stuff. And I'm not sure what else I can really add on to that without going. I guess, Nick, is there anything you want to talk about for like? I'm trying to think about stuff to talk about like the setting of Amphibia itself. Like, we never really got to know. Like, we knew Olivia was like Andrews's advisor, but here it's kind of they kind of establish it like, oh, Olivia's job is to look after the environment, and then the environment's destroyed, so she doesn't know what to do now.
Yeah, I don't know, I mean, I'm kind of with you there. I don't feel like there's much to say about Olivia. I do think this is like a really. Huh?
What?
Oh.
Wait. Yeah, what? It's literally called Olivia and Yunnan.
Oh, I mean,
It's kind of brutal
I mean,
what they
like,
thought about
goddamn.
Marcy. Like,
Yeah,
how they
but like
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, like I was gonna say like there's tons of stuff to talk about in this episode. Like this is like kind of Olivia's like time to shine for once. Like we're getting a lot more backstory in her character. Like we're learning that like she is still an advisor to Andrea. It's just more like she's also like responsible for taking care of the castle and Utopia and stuff. And she's kind of failing her ancestors, which is a cool way of like Andreas failing his too. That's awesome. You know what I mean? Um this stuff is giving like yeah, like we're getting a better idea of like who Olivia was like before not well, just in general, we're getting a better idea of like Olivia's purpose in the castle and stuff, and a better relationship with her with Marcy, which is knowing that it's not like super French, like they're not like super big friends, which I'm okay with. I don't think Olivia and Yuna necessarily need to be Newt moms for them to still have an interesting dynamic, you know? If anything, I kind of like that Olivia and Yuna sort of sets it up a bit, but then has like tragedy fall from it, you know? Um, but no, there's a lot going on with Olivia's character. And like Yunan's fun too, because she's a lot more chill this episode. Like before she was like a psychopathic like murderer. Now she's like critiquing Andreas for being like evil. Like I don't she has like no way to talk. She has no right to talk. There we go. But like I don't know, it's nice to see Yunan's more calm, like heroic justice side of things, but still has that like maniac kind of feel to her. And they're like bouncing off each other really well too. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of fun character stuff here. This is the only time Olivia and Yuna really get this chance, but like they do a lot in this episode, like characterization wise. No, like I was like, there's nothing to say. Like there's a lot to say. So I don't know. This episode's saying a lot for like both these characters and Marcy too, and how it like gives a good aftermath of her time in True Colors as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's my bad. That's my bad. I think you're absolutely right in all your points. Um, I guess it was just more like I wasn't really sure what I was going to add on to what's already been said. Because I feel like I really just because I feel like yeah, but just back when we talked, like I guess we just sort of exhausted
Yeah.
all our thoughts on it. But I think it is
Yeah.
yeah. I still do appreciate like what they did with Olivia because it really is it really did add like an interesting side to her when she's already been this when she's already been this character who's been introduced for this pretty like probably an equivalent to a season, right? Like it was still very interesting how they still provide something fresh. So I'll always appreciate that. I think like yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing I always just I like the fact they never did try to pretend there was more between her and Marcy than was already shown. Like I like that. I was like
Yeah.
that's a very brave choice. Like they could have copped out and just said like actually here's all these scenes that happened that you guys never saw. And it's like no, they're like no. They're just
Like
like no.
yeah, because like with Marcy and Andreas, like you can tell they're familiar with each other from like their first scene. You know what I mean? Like Andreas is like Marcy is 100% chill with Andreas. Like she's used to like him like jumping around the room and stuff. They know each other, and like obviously their friendship isn't like good. You know, it's even argued that they're not friends to a certain point. You know what I mean? With all the betrayals and stabbings and other stuff. But like I like there's a more like obvious like oh they're familiar with each other kind of thing with it. But like with Marcy, like it's not exactly the same with that. And I get why they didn't do that. Because like I've seen a lot of people say like it's to show Marcy is investing into relationships. And like kinda. It's more like Marcy was ultimately using this fantasy world to maintain another instead of create other relationships. Like to maintain her relationship with the girls and not create more relationships. Her goal is really different. You know what I mean? So like it's not like the same thing. It's not just Marcy not investing into it. It's Marcy trying to maintain this dynamic without considering and moving on to the future, accepting that change of reality, right? So like it's a bit different with them. And like, yeah, I don't know. I was always cool with Olivia and Yuna not having a close relationship with Marcy, but you can definitely tell they're bonding throughout the episode, though. Like, not even just Olivia and Yuna with each other, but also like in the fight with the core's illusions, which we know is the core now. I was always a little confused if that was like the core or like some device in the room. So, but yeah.
To be honest, I don't really know what else I can say about Olivia and Yunnan, like in retrospective, because I feel, yeah, like Nick said, we kind of like said a lot about it when it first aired.
Yeah, because most of it could be speculation too. I think like I don't know. I think ONY is like interesting because it's giving you a lot of character information that's like important for the rest of the show. Like even like Olivia and Yunnan, which are side characters, yeah. So it's not like it's not like I'm upset if they're not like in the finale too much. But like what's the word? Like with Marcy and Andreas, we're getting a lot of stuff with them too. Like we're seeing like a very different side of Andreas's character. Like in the last episode he was with Marcy, he was like making fun of her and then stabbed her in the chest. In this episode, he's like begging the core, "Hey, yo, can we not do that possession thing? That'd be like really bad. Like, I'm not sure that's a good idea, man." And then like the core tells him to shut the fuck up, and he's like, "Okay." and then just kind of just, and then like tries to act all cool when the possession's happening, but like he can't, you know. So it's like gives like an extra side to Andrews' character where like and like I don't know, like that was always like a nice bit to it. And you had like Marcy's guilt too of how she's afraid of Anne and Sasha kind of leaving her behind after everything and how she messed up. And like I've got a lot to say about Marcy's arc once we get to 3B because I feel like into the finale instead of 3B because I feel like out of all the characters, I don't know, I feel like Marcy is a character I've seen like have like a lot of misconceptions, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys have ever noticed it,
yeah.
but like it's it's very like I've just noticed it where like I think a lot of people miss the point of her arc and it's like not even just escapism. Like there's a lot more going on to the character's piece. You know what I mean? And I think she can sometimes be simplified. Like I've seen people say like, "Oh, like Marcy like her time in the core is like repetitive compared to like here because she already like feels bad about what happened and wants to make things right. They're doing the same thing there, blah 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 blah. I'll save it when we get there. There's a lot of bullshit with Marcy, to say the least. So, but yeah, I don't know. I like what they did with her character. I think all the illusion stuff to kind of get the understanding of Marcy's mindset is great. The possession scene is scary as fuck. That's some creepy imagery. Like even like on like random like Amphibia reviews and stuff, everyone always mentions that scene being really creepy, having scary imagery. It's like, ooh, you know what I mean? And like the scene is like obviously supposed to not make you like feel good. I've seen a lot of people like once again like have a lot of misconceptions of how Marcy is like thought about in the show. Like I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like you guys know what I'm talking about, right? Like there's a lot of like weird things with the character. Yeah.
Okay. I think we can. I think we can continue on with like the last bit of 3A because they're both kind of like mid-season finales in a way where how Escaped Amphibia was kind of designed to be like the mid-season finale, but then it kind of got grouped with 3B, and then Froggy Little Christmas kind of became the 3A mid-season finale in terms of like airing schedule, because like the holiday season was coming, and I think we had like I think Froggy Little Christmas aired in like November, so like just before the holiday season, and then the show went on hiatus. It came back with Escape to Amphibia. Personally, for me, I think, as you can tell, we're treating like Escape to Amphibia as the mid-season finale because I think it serves better.
It is.
Yeah, as a three conclusion, because like that's where all the characters, like everything that was kind of being like set up in 3A comes back in this episode. But Froggy Little
Yeah, and
Christmas.
plus, like,
Oh, go ahead, Impact.
oh, sorry.
No, I was gonna say Froggy
Oh,
Little
I was
Christmas
gonna
was a
say, plus,
fantastic episode to end the season.
yeah,
End the to go on hiatus too if they needed to, which they did.
yeah, and I think like I feel like keep in mind, like majority of people now are going to stream the entire show, and like majority of people are not going to know this, know the info about like Escape to Amphibia wasn't aired with the rest of like 3A. So like most people are going to think of it as the mid-season finale. They might be a little confused when fans like give like a random like what's the word like they say FLXs. They're like, no, it's not. It's clearly Escape to Amphibia. Like you could tell, obviously. You know what I mean? So I feel like it's one of those things where like naturally people know. Like it's not that it's just like the Escape to Amphibia was intended to be that way. I feel like maybe in fandom discussion, this sort of messes things up sometimes, like when you're talking about 3A a bit, but I don't know. I feel like most people know that Escape to Amphibia is the mid-season finale, you know?
Yeah, and Froggy Little Christmas has like the spirit, like that episode about the spirit of thanks of Christmas, and has all that fun stuff. But it also is like very like plot relevant with Anne just kind of like, I'm surprised they got a holiday episode with this much kind of like plot significance. Where like even Darcy
Yeah,
shows
because
up,
they
and then like the army at the end, and
yeah, because wasn't the Halloween special wasn't even aired like with the rest of it was aired out of order. So it was kind of surprising they were able to have almost perfect timing with the Christmas episode. It makes me wonder if 3A ever got like delayed or something, like how that would work because you can't really remove FLX out of the show. Like you know what I mean? Like it's pretty plot important for like Andreas, for Anne, her relationship with her parents and stuff. Like I don't know, like they were able to fit a lot for a holiday special that if things like went wrong schedule wise, I'm not in it. I'm not like I don't know exactly how animation works, so maybe this is like not exactly how it functions. But like if they ever had to delay it, they'd have to essentially remove this. Maybe you have to remove this episode, maybe not. Probably not. Probably wouldn't have to, but they just have to be like, hey guys, it's supposed to come out at this time. Just pretend it's Christmas and it's like July or something. Like so yeah, like they didn't have to air this episode out of order or anything, which, again, helps us a lot because it allows FLX to still stay in the serialized format of the season. So it all worked out.
yeah, and the only retrospective thing I kind of had for Froggy Little Christmas is, oh, there's also the butterfly that Anne got in Hopping Mall. Um, kind of debatable if you think it should be, if it should have been like an actual scene instead of in the credits, but still canon. Um, but just Sprig's gift to Anne, the little action figure, and
Yep.
You know, like I want to bring up how like for Sprig's birthday, like Anne got Sprig the little telescope. Or sorry, is it a handheld? Like, is that called a telescope when it's like a handheld and
I maybe. Honestly, I'm not sure. I think
I'm
that
not
I think that's
sure. I know it has
yeah
a different name, but I
yeah.
don't know.
I'm gonna look it up very quickly.
Man, it really is. Like looking back, yeah, really those two
Monocular
moments really
scope.
are strictly on binoculars. Interesting.
Oh,
Oh, I
cause
thought binoculars.
binoculars, monocular. Get it? Yeah.
Oh, oh, I get it.
But it's like Anne's gift to Sprig. You know, like there's so many moments in the show where Anne kind of like wants to sort of like treat the planners because she knows they're kind of like, you know, bottom of the barrel in society, so she kind of wants to go like all out for them. And it's like, so her gift to Sprig, it's like where it's like the super shiny monocular scope, and like it's gold and has his name engraved into it. Feels very like in character.
Yep.
And then vice versa, like Sprig kind of like just like putting together a bunch of like stuff he probably found around the house to form this like super like sentimental gift for Anne, idolizing her and like showing Anne that like, you know, the people around her are like noticing like the growth she's been through and like how much they like love her for it. It's like that's like super like fit like in character for Sprig for Anne. And like I remember like seeing like that scene and thinking like thinking about it later, and that kind of like made me like feel like the show was going the direction where they wouldn't see each other again that we know of, just because of like just like this like the super sentimental gift exchange. It's like you felt like you felt the sunset on the like on the horizon, like you know things were like coming to an end. It just gave me that kind of feeling at the time, and that's what kind of like made me like pretty sure that like it would end with Anne being separated from the planners. And I hopefully I don't like talk too much about like the ending itself, but that's kind of where I wanted to like end my thoughts on that.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like yeah, that's a really just I don't know. It's really nice to look back on those two moments of just how what it just really represents, especially with Sprig. I just really like the idea that like you know how important like a sense of home and family is to Sprig. So yeah, to have him basically take what he can from his home and just deliver that into one piece for Anne, like shit, you know. I think Paulie said that. I think Paulie said it best. So yeah, I love it. I like that Paulie line has just been stuck in my head for a long time.
And like, yeah, man. Ah. And that was
I do
one.
really like.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say I do really like how the whole like theme of like appreciating and spending time with like the people you love and care about in your family is like like the whole message of like FLX is trying to give about Christmas, right? And it's like obviously Anne and Sprig give each other their gifts and appreciate their time with each other. You know what I mean? it's also Anne like learning to appreciate her parents more and starting to like understand them better, like and like understanding Mrs. Boonshoy's like time as an immigrant in LA, like compared to her time in like Amphibia, right? Like that's great. Like it's her like getting the chance to like get to know her parents like a little better and like spending that time with them while she still can, which makes like Escape to Amphibia a little bit like all the more sadder because now it's like now Anne has to let them go, you know? So it's like a nice like way to like Anne kind of build that relationship, be the climax of that, and now Escape to Amphibia has to be like, all right, now you gotta let them go. You know what I mean? Which prepares Anne for later on in the show. So
Yeah. And on a lighter
yeah.
note, the episode did end with those letters to Sasha and
Oh
Marcy's
yeah.
parents.
Oh yeah.
You said a lighter note.
Yeah.
A lighter note.
I mean, those letters are pretty light, you know, like just
Oh my
paper.
god. Yeah, the letters are funny because I think my thing with it was like I think they're clearly designed to be closure and not setup. Like the reason why I kind of thought by Escape to Amphibia, like, oh man, the parents aren't gonna show up. It's Jover. Was kind of because like if they were gonna show up, I feel like you would have showed them like in FLX, like them getting the letters as Anne's like narrating. You know what I mean? It just sort of felt like if we were gonna see them, that would be the point to set them up, you know. But it doesn't really feel like it's setting something up. It feels like it's closing a door. But I think the problem is at the beginning of the season doesn't really establish well what it thinks of the parents. Like, what does Anne think about the Woos and the Waybrights? Does she want to tell them? Probably not. She's hiding the planters, right? Like that's all you need, like one line, and like that's it. Just to establish what the show thinks about the plant parents, but like I don't really know, so it kind of leaves it like annoyingly ambiguous. It's not like a good like, oh, like this adds interpretation to the text, and it's like fun to think about. It's more like frustrating like ambiguity where it like makes certain plot points may or may not work. You know, so the letters are weird.
I do think long term, it kind of helps prevent people from kind of like changing their perspective on Sasha and Marcy solely because of like a throwaway line of what people thought about of what the characters thought about the parents. Because like I think people would
What do you mean?
because like every time we get something involving Sasha and Marcy, like everyone latches onto like every single word and every like even the grammar and punctuation of things, and just to like just to sort of like form like like a thought about like why a character does this, and involving the parents just the fact that like Sasha has like two like there's letters addressed separately to the parents, like that kind of like
Yeah, that was great. Like,
that was great. And then like you have the fandom kind of like oh, Sasha's like this because her parents are divorced. It's like
Yeah.
there's a whole debate on this with Sasha and Marcy's parents that is exhausting. It is exhausting where like I'm not even sure we could like go on detail about it on this retrospective specifically, but there are a lot of things where
I was gonna say there probably wouldn't be enough time for it.
yeah, I'm not gonna try. I'm just gonna say it's exhausting and call it a day. There's a lot of like bad faith interpretation. There we go. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun. Those letters are nice. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, we do have another mid-season finale here. I think,
Another one.
yeah, Escape to Amphibia. Like, I don't think people talk about this one as much.
This episode.
Yeah, because
They
like,
talk about the
Yeah.
Marcy joke, and that's about it. Like, like
yeah,
that's the only thing I can think about when this episode ever gets referenced is that joke. Even then, it's not really like at
Oh,
the expense of Marcy. You know what I mean? Like it's just a homage to this. It's not like it's like making fun of the scene or the tone of it. You know what
because
I'm talking about, right?
yeah,
Like
because when I see
the
people talk about 2B, like I think everyone kind of starts with Commander Ann and yeah, it feels like everyone starts talking about 3B with Commander Ann, even though
yeah,
Escape to Amphibia came like aired first.
but then it doesn't really get talked about with Rie, even though it
Yeah,
concludes the season. So it's like in a weird limbo,
yeah,
you know? Yeah. Which is really sad because like Escape to Amphibia is like a big episode. Like this is like a climax of like Anne's arc for 3A throughout the season. Like you've seen Anne like have a hard time handling responsibilities and stuff, but she's made it through it. She's handled it. She's had her parents help her out, and now like she's built this bond with them throughout the season thanks to taking care of the planters and stuff. And this is a big point because now Anne has to learn to let go of this relationship that she just built up, which is like, pretty important. Like that Anne learns how to let go of a relationship. That might play a part in the finale or something, you know? Like, so it's a big point because now, like, in the prison scene, right? It's a chance for, I'm kind of skipping around a little bit, but like, the prison scene gets to be the point for Anne where she kind of breaks down a bit, where like kind of the weight of her responsibilities and handling them and how she's been fucking up like throughout the season and this episode because Mr. X has always been tricking her wherever she goes, and that she feels like she shouldn't feel insecure about leaving her parents behind. She's older, she's grown from Amphibia, she shouldn't have to deal with this. And like, you know, unlike Anne's Terminator, her parents are very like supportive and believe in her and like believe that she's changed and developed and give her that like encouragement, but also let Anne know like just because they're not there with her in Amphibia doesn't mean that they aren't there in her heart, and the lessons and the relationship they built will always be a part of her life. You know what I mean? Like that's pretty important. She literally says the same thing to Sprig like at the end of the show. You know what I mean? And Marcy too. Like she says it to both of these characters. So like it that is a major character beat. And I've rarely seen anyone talk about it. Which is crazy. Which yeah.
Nick, what's on your mind?
oh, for Escape to honestly, I mean, I don't really have anything.
Oh, okay, I thought you had another
I
hot take. That's why I wasn't.
oh shoot. I guess I did promise there was something else I was going to save at the end, but yeah, for Escape to Amphibia. I mean, honestly, I have no hot takes for this. I think this is still like a really, I think this is like still like a really solid conclusion to everything they were trying to do in 3A, right? I feel like this. I don't know. I don't think this episode really does anything wrong, honestly. It just concludes what it set up across the season.
Yeah.
I still just really appreciate just what it does for Anne and what it says about her as a character. Just like where you can say her real strength as a person comes from, right? Just like the inspiration she gets from others to be better, to challenge herself, right? And I think yeah, not only having just you know, the people who helped her along the way prop her up here, but also just her parents leaving her with like a sentiment that's just also true to the spirit of the series. Like, yeah, that's really awesome. So I
Yeah.
have no negative thoughts. I have no negative thoughts. All right. I don't have any hot takes. don't have any hot takes. I still, I honestly, I'm a bit bummed out. Impact, when you said like people don't really discuss anything about this episode. Like I was going to say like not even like the Star Wars scene. Like not even that. Like, that I don't even watch.
That
Like I'm
scene.
not even a Star Wars fan, but I love that scene.
Oh yeah. That scene's great. I've seen a lot of good, like, there's a lot of
Yeah.
fan art of that scene specifically, which is awesome. It's a great scene. It's just like, I feel like in terms of discussion of like the entire show, it just weirdly gets like, man, I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm not the right person to judge to say something has been ignored. Like, you know what I mean? Because like, you know, as a fandom, we talk more about the girls. Like, it's just true. Like, we talk more about the Calamity Trio and stuff, and sometimes Anne's arc doesn't get discussed as much. And like, again, I'm fine with that because like we have a whole show about it, you know. And like with like fandom content, that's like, I'm fine with that too. I don't know. I always just find it like weird that people would like say this part of the series is filler, yet it literally is exploring Anne's character growth from seasons 1 and 2, actively challenging them, giving her important lessons that play a part both in the finale and like the entire show as a whole, explores major themes of it. Like that's not filler. Like like I like say what you want, even if you think the quality is not great. Big arc here. And like I have my problems with it. I think we're gonna talk about it a little bit near the end, but like I don't know. I just find it really frustrating that like it ends having a good character arc here and it doesn't get talked about, even though Anne's character arc is also essential to Sasha and Marcy's arcs. Like if you don't choose to analyze her, you've inadvertently not chosen to not analyze Sasha and Marcy's character arcs too. Like, to be honest. So it's just like, I don't know. I feel like I'm ranting at this point, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just how it is. It's just how it is with Amphibia. But yeah,
Yeah.
we'll get our dues one day. We'll get like set to see.
And the only 2 points I have about Escape to Amphibia is that, like, actually no, I think it's just 1 point. The scene where they actually get back to Amphibia and they kind of like recreate the shot of Fort in the Road where they're looking out into the valley. That was a really great shot.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, also, Mr. X is a mid-ass villain. I'm just saying.
Okay. Oh, actually, maybe that's my second point.
Yeah,
like,
I guess we forgot to cover him.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Like someone had to say.
He's all right.
Like
He's
Mr. X
okay.
he's mid. Like like
Yeah.
my problem with Mr. X is that he doesn't really feel like he has like a strong, like, yeah, you got the scene in Escape, which is cool. I like that scene. I like what he does, but like he doesn't really feel like he has like a good dynamic with our protagonist or any of the other characters to really feel like an interesting villain. With like, I mentioned Cloakbot before, like with Andreas, he's not only just a great character, he's an obvious great narrative foil of the Anne story and adds a tons to the themes of the piece. He's great. He's a very three-dimensional character. He's not just an Anne foil either, you know what I mean? He's a very three-dimensional character. The core gets to be like a fun like villain to like Sasha and Marcy's arcs in a narrative and a fun like narrative opposite to them. They're great. And maybe that's not a fair comparison because it's Andreas in the core versus like a secret agent guy. You know what I mean? Maybe that's not a fair comparison. But even like Cloakbot had like a more in-depth like dynamic with Anne's character arc. And like again, like Mr. X doesn't have to be like just a villain for Anne could be a villain for the Planters or give some interesting challenge to the Boonchoid, which he kind of does. But like, I don't know, Mr. X just feels kind of like flat. I never really felt anything out of his character, out of like all the villains we get this season. Like he's the definition of mid. You know what I mean? He's kind of okay.
Yeah, I can't really argue. I think Mr. X. I think it's Cloakbot. Nah, he didn't. Those shoes he had to fill, he did not fill them. Cloakbot, not Cloakbot. I was going to say Cloakbot should have came back, but nah. I think nah.
Not
I think Mr. X is he's just dang. I mean, I just don't even. I mean, here's the problem. I don't even think I was really laughing that much in this. I mean, maybe it's just like a personal.
Yeah,
Maybe it's just like your mileage may vary, but I don't know. I didn't really find him funny either.
yeah.
I'm
Like,
not
he's
trying
just,
to hate.
I don't know. Like he's just kind of there, and like I don't know, man. There's sometimes a part of me where like I kind of wish we had like Andreas and Darcy a little sooner. You know what I mean? Like I don't know how you'd make that work writing wise. It's like it'd be kind of weird to like I don't know. There's just a part of me that wish we had like Andreas just straight up just antagonize the girls for like on the antagonize and the Planters, but like he already kind of does in FLX and like to Marcy, Olivia, and Udan. You know what I mean with the hand push, you know. But so Andrews is still like a really active character. He's still definitely a villain, and I kind of make the argument he's more active in 3A than 3B, which is really strange. The core too, it's a little odd with them. I'll talk about that when we get there. But yeah, I don't know. He's just like Mr. X just feels like he's there for the plot and not there as a character. There we go.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, that's definitely fair too. I think. Yeah, I think he's like the one thing 3A guy. I guess I can't really defend. Like I think he still has like those. I think he still has like solid moments, but yeah, he really does.
He's
Where
not a
he is
terrible
supposed to
character.
sort of, yeah, like where he is supposed to shine. There are just awkward spots where you're just wondering where he's at, like what's he's doing. Like how are we how were we able to have two different episodes where they just go out and about in LA without him even spotting anything? Like it would have been
Yeah.
one thing. It would have been one thing if like they revealed that he's just been like building up information on them the whole time, but no, it's just more like he's just not doing anything, and like that's just
Yeah. And
yeah.
like Escape to Amphibia tries to do that, right? Like it shows like all the footage of like all the past events, which is cool. I like how like all of it like Anne's mess ups with the Planters, or like just Anne and the Planters mess up to getting seen. Like even like it shows the camera footage and like right at the museum and stuff. Like that's awesome. Like of the government has been watching. Like oh shit. Like now they're really getting involved now. That's cool. Like I like Mr. X having a little bit more of intimidation factor in Escape to Amphibia. I mean, like not a ton. Like Anne is still like beating up secret agents with a lightsaber, but like she was trained by Tritonio, so like I'll cut some slack. You know what I mean? But yeah, I don't know. It was always like what's the word? It was just Mr. X always felt just a little lacking. But again, like I still
Yeah.
think in Escape we got something. He still felt like he was valuable, but I can't go like on a whole like with Darcy, right? I could go like on a whole like essay of like, oh my god, what does she add to like and like Sasha and Marcy's characters, like with the core and Darcy, you know what I mean? I can't do that with Mr. X. You know, but yeah. Thumb. Oh shit.
Oh shoot! Yeah, because
no.
I'm always just
Can you
waiting.
hear
I'm
me?
always just waiting for Thumb.
Can you hear me?
Oh,
Yeah,
oh
yeah, we can hear
yeah,
you now.
there you go.
I thought
Yeah,
I was
I
like,
was like,
what happened?
yeah, I was like, did he die? I was like, is Thumb
I
gone?
saw
Or...
He died.
No, I'm thinking like, have we covered all of 3A?
I think we have.
Okay.
Yeah,
think we did.
that was. I can't think of any other aspect I haven't talked about.
Dang, we ended on Mr. X sucks.
Oh, did I mention like? Oh wait, did I mention about like Anne's super form? We talked about that a little bit,
We
right?
talked about
Oh,
a
yeah, I
little
guess we
bit.
didn't.
Yeah, like it kind of, she got more
Yeah.
control of it
Oh,
now, and
yeah. Like I don't know. I always thought her super form was cool. One thing I've noticed about a lot of like fanon with like swap AUs or fan art in general is sort of like not fan art, but like fan fiction and fanon in general. Usually, a lot of times, like the powers are usually seen as more of a like wish fulfillment, like plot important like ability to help like the girls move forward in something or beat a bad guy or whatever. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's actually really cool to see like if you read any swap AU or any sort of fan fiction ever, how they use the powers. Because like what Amphibia does is more so using it as like a way to tell a character's story or to show off a character's or show off Anne's growth. So like in this case, it's like her powers are like a representation of rebirth and like reincarnation, right? With like the lotus symbol and stuff with it, like the hair and the lotus aura and stuff. That's great because that's like a fun like like the rebirth of the character from Amphibia. And a lot of Anne's arc is about her trying to maintain the best version of herself and the lesson she learned from the seasons 1 and 2, but ultimately is failing to keep it, like her not being able to maintain her blue form. So it's cool to represent her like her sense of confidence and growth in that way. And I like showing off like Anne's best version of herself, which is her calamity form, isn't always sustainable and it's always changing and evolving. I like that. That was cool. So I think that was a fun way of like representing the character's arc. And I feel like it also feels like a play on like I'm not super sure. I always got the vibe her powers always felt like a play on like with great power comes great responsibility. I can't pinpoint it exactly, but the way Andreas words like how letting go of the powers is letting go of the responsibility that comes with them, the fact that like Anne is having to have to handle a lot of the burdens of responsibility throughout the season and stuff. I don't know. It always felt like it was also like a play on that. Like Anne must handle this great responsibility and this great responsibility of her powers, if that makes sense. I feel like if I wrote it down, I would explain it better. I had a good idea going, but I don't know. I think her powers have a lot to her arc, and that's also high key why I was kind of okay with Sasha and Marcy only getting their powers at the end. The powers always felt like Anne's thing to me, like it always felt like the powers are always designed to represent her arc, like her themes of responsibility or rebirth and stuff. And Sasha and Marcy get those themes of rebirth in the season, like Sasha being like a commander or whatever, Marcy being turned into Darcy and being consumed by her fantasy, things like that. So that's it. That's my long spiel on Anne's powers.
okay, thank you, Impact. Yeah, that kind of you said it really well. See, we could end 3A without Mr. X.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, like I don't want to spend too much time on the fandom aspect of this because I feel like we like Impact said, we kind of talked about it throughout the recording. Like
Yeah.
I really like 3A, but it's like
Yeah.
the fandom made it really annoying.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I think like I feel like I wish I prepared something a little bit more for this. I feel like a lot of like I don't know, like Nick, you were saying something about like
Oh
how
yeah.
for this
Yeah,
season with
man.
for Anne, like you have to use her to defend it. Could you like explain that a little more? Because I'm curious now, since we're on the topic.
Yeah, I guess yeah. I yeah. If I'm getting into it, I guess like it's just it really just comes down to the fact that I think for like it's just God damn it, you know what I mean? Because when it comes to the season, it's like this is where it's like you really because I guess yeah, part of this point it did have to do with the fandom. I guess it's just the idea that like season one and season two, it's very easy to defend the planter focus. Like it's like their show, it's their journey, it's their stories, blah 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 blah. But then I think I'm so absolutely with. I would not change a damn thing about how much focus the planters have gone through. Yeah, like I would not change anything. But I think I just did notice that it's like, okay, man, when it comes to defending the season, I really just can't say. I really just I can't push much on the aspect of the planters here, and I kind of noticed that with just like the way, just the
Huh.
presence they give to some of the stories for that. Because I just feel like there's just, and honestly, this is part of like this is something that also leans a bit into 3B, but it's just the fact that like I do think there's this feeling of them not really having that much stories left for the planters to tell. And the fact that like I guess like the last major thing is just them, splitting off. Everything that has to do with that is sort of just pushed to the end of the season. And I think that just leaves this I'm not going to say emptiness, but I think that's why we use the word light before. I think that's just why there's just like, to me at least, there's just these feeling. There's just these gaps where like, I really would have loved to have Sprig, maybe bring up what happened to his mother in relation to. I guess maybe he should have trauma dump on her, but just like, just having just to me, it just felt like there are things there, like emotions, like emotional beats that they could have used for this season that they didn't. Like a pretty like I think one that we talked about was just like was Top Hop trying to convince Anne not to lie to family for protection, just like those easy because you guys know what I'm talking about, right? Like when he
Yeah.
told yeah, it's just like those really those parallels, all those parallels that were sitting right there that I feel like that yeah, I just felt like looking back, yeah, they really could have built quite a bit of story off of that, right? Just like create this more
Oh, I know what
streamlined
you're saying.
development between the planters and the boon shorts. And I think it's just it's like it just wasn't there. And I think I always end up just talking about how good of an arc Anne had here, right? And I'm not even gonna deny that. I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed all the cool bits we got from the planters acclimating to Earth, but it's just like just the strength of the story. It's just like the all around feeling because the planners they definitely have good episodes. Like I'm gonna say like Adventures in Cat Sitting, that's good. Temple Frogs, that's good. But it's just like that all around feeling of their story on Earth. I feel like that's it's just not as strong as Ants. I feel like even when you have an episode like Spider Sprig or sorry not Spider Sprig, Spring's birthday, that does more for Anne than Spring, honestly. Like everything just feels like feels it's like I don't know. I guess it is. I guess it isn't this Planter's strongest season. I guess. I guess I
Ah,
can say that.
okay. I see what you mean now. Because I actually
Yeah.
agree with you on some points too. Like the hot pop example is great. Like you have like a clear like oh like Anne is lying to her parents to keep her family safe. Hop Pop did the same thing with the box. That's a very interesting thing to like have Anne and Hop Pop like engage with each other. Anne is playing the caretaker role like Hop Pop used to do with her. Like there's a really interesting like conflict with those two like to be explored. But they sort of leave Hop Pop in like a weird position where he's not the caretaker, but he's also being taken care of. It's weird. They have like an interesting thing to explore, or like how Mars, like maybe the show wouldn't do this, but like Polly like being so dedicated to save Frobo because Frobo died in True Colors. You know what I mean? And like I've seen some people try to use like, oh, like Anne trying to save Marcy and whatnot. Things like that, where like there are legitimate points for, or like even with Spider Sprig of like Sprig wanting to be a hero independent, wanting to be a hero just like Anne and having to going to get out of her shadow. That's a good point, actually. I think like, man, I wish that was people talked about that more. That's a very good point. I think like I think that even like affects. I feel like sometimes like I felt like the planters as characters are sometimes like in this season specifically, they have to almost be like molded to fit Anne's character arc. When I'm not like, and I've seen people say this argument for Sasha and Marcy, which I'm not sure I fully agree with that. I think there's some truth to it. Where like they have to be twisted to fit her character. And I think for the planters, sometimes that happened to them too, with this season as well. So that I think that's a good point, actually. Like, I think the dynamic does give it more for Anne than the planters. Though I think the Boon Choys, I will say, help carry this out a lot. I think their character arcs are pretty fun too, and learning to like see Anne's growth and like see her change as a person is also pretty important. Like I feel like the Boon Choys are like probably some of the most like I would say the most essential for Anne's like positive character growth. I wouldn't necessarily
Yeah.
say more important than Sasha and Marcy. I wouldn't go that far because they're like literally essential to the entire plot of the show. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah, that's a good point though.
I was just thinking. Just
Yeah,
being crazy,
how-
thinking.
I'm kind of.
Yeah,
So for,
I threw. I knew I knew I was gonna throw a big one at you guys. I had a feeling.
no, I like it though. Like it's
Yeah.
refreshing to be honest.
Yeah.
Like because I feel like it's not like we're talking about like Sasha and Marcy not being mentioned every 5 minutes. Like, you know, this is like nice. So
Yeah. It's just
wait,
yeah, shit. Yeah.
wait, Nick, I was wondering something else too, because like were you saying like I forget if we talked about this already. Did you mention something about how like the season doesn't like set up itself well enough? Like I forget something
Oh, did
like
I say
that.
that?
Yeah, something like that. I forget exactly unless I'm like mixing something up. Like, am I
Do you mean
bugging?
like
Or
do you mean like 3A or like the whole thing?
3A, the 3A in
Oh,
general, like how it's like how New Normal sets up the rest of the plot, or am I mixing that up with someone else? I might be mixing it up.
oh yeah, I think someone else might have said that. I can't
Oh,
remember if it
okay,
was me.
never mind.
Like do you like is this something I said tonight or just like a different recording or something or
I felt like it was tonight. Like it was something like
uh,
where New Normal like doesn't set up the rest of the season well enough or something. Like I forget exactly. Then again, I feel like I'm bugging. I just remember
Oh,
yeah.
something else you
I think
mentioned.
because Nick and I talked about how like basically like New Normal could have done a bit better in like addressing the Marcy and Sasha stuff earlier on, so that people wouldn't keep
Yeah,
talking about it later on.
Yeah.
yeah, because I think like talk about it a little bit. I think the problem was just more like I wasn't really when I first watched it, I just wasn't really clear what Anne was thinking about Sasha and Marcy. Like, did she hate them? Did she want to forgive them? Why does she want to like? I understand wanting to save them, obviously. Like that's not really a question. Like, of course Anne's gonna save her like friends. Like, you know what I mean? She doesn't want them to die. Like, that's not really a question of the narrative to me. And like Marcy's stab, I never like I always had a problem with it where I was kind of like the conflict of Amphibia's narrative isn't about like Anne and Sasha thinking, oh my god, is their friend dead? Or are they not gonna make it? It's more like the drama of Amphibia is used to play onto like the conflict of in Amphibia is used to be like a larger fictional scale of like their relationship issues, right?
Yeah.
So like Anne and Sasha being like, "Oh my God, is Marcy dead?" doesn't really do anything. Like I actually like how Beginning of the End handled it a lot more than like a lot of fan did sometimes. Like again, like I still wanted Anne to be like, "Holy shit, is Marcy okay? Oh my gosh!" Like I still wanted her to like emotionally deal with it. I just didn't like. I just wanted the show to be more clear of like what is she thinking about them? Because I didn't know when Commander Anne was happening. I remember there being a lot of fan art of being like when the episode was about to come out, where like Anne would like hate Sasha and like never forgive her. But then in the episode, like she forgives her in like 5 seconds. And it makes sense because she wants in New Normal, she said she wants to make up, but like it just doesn't really like feel like the episode processes the emotions of everything, that it makes
Yeah.
everything feel like weird. Like, you know. And like again, you could maybe say Disney meddling. It is so not specific about what exactly Disney did, and it's like when people mention this, they only base it on the Olivia Unan quote. Even though Matt on multiple occasions has talked about how he was pretty pleased with the season, and just some of the darker elements they couldn't mention. I don't really think like I've seen people go like, and like Disney stopped Anne having like PTSD or whatever. Like they're not gonna do that in the show. Like that's
Yeah.
just stupid. That's just like a bad theory. Like that's based upon ignorance of like the rest of the show. Like that's not like Matt's or Disney's fault. That's you having a bad perception of Anne's arc and choosing not to analyze her character. Anyways, point is like it's just like I don't know. There's a whole thing with that where like I feel like by 3B, I understand what's going through Anne's head like pretty well, but I just wish I knew like earlier. And I think like even by like analyzing the show now, I think I got it. I think like the journal was like just emphasizing stuff that I wish was emphasized earlier. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, the journal kind of like softens the blow.
Yeah. Nah, that's true. There's a bunch of them. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like again, like I feel like you could figure out most of what Anne was thinking in 3A by 3B. Like it's not that hard to figure out by that point. Like even with the stuff with Marcy, like Anne is literally like advocating for Marcy's forgiveness. When Darcy is talking, like it's what's the word? Like when Darcy's trying to play into her insecurities, it completely ignores Darcy and immediately acts like what's happened to Marcy? Is her friend okay? Like she literally is crying like like crazy and all in, like not knowing if her friend is dead or not. Like she clearly cares. Like you know what I mean? Like I I didn't think it was like impossible to figure out or anything. I just think that like it was a complaint that feels like it perpetuated like forever. That like you still have like snippets of like people who like didn't pay attention to like the rest of the show and just keep like complaining about that part. But I don't know. I'll stop ranting about it. But it's a whole thing.
Yeah, I think we can kind of wrap up now for 3A. Like overall, like I won't deny that there are some parts of the season where like they kind of like feels a bit off compared to like compared to season 1 and 2. It definitely does feel different. Sometimes not in the way that I want it. But then it's hard for me to kind of like I can't just dismiss it because like it feels like 3A does like complete like that cycle. It's just the question is like how sometimes it didn't need to always talk about. Actually, no. What am I? I think. I should have written more notes. 3A did its job well, I think, in like whatever it set up for season 3 and what it accomplished by like Escape to Amphibia. I think it did well, but like mixing in like stuff from like True Colors and season 2, it could have been done better. But that doesn't
Yeah.
really. I still enjoy a lot of the segments here. Just like those
I'm
like.
breaking up for you.
Am I breaking up again?
We can hear
Yeah,
you
I
now.
think you were for me. Yeah, you're good now though. You're good now though.
Okay, but like with 3A, it's like it's just those things
Never
from like.
mind.
Okay, how about now?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
you're good
yeah.
now. Okay.
Keep
Yeah.
going.
3A. If 3A just like covered those little
Oh my god.
things again,
No, just try again. Just try again. Just try
okay,
again.
3A
Keep going.
just needed to cover a little bit more from season 2 before going on to season 3.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the only
That's
thing.
pretty much it.
Honestly, that's yeah. That's kind of it. Like
That's literally the summary of the whole season. Like it literally
Yeah.
just needs to go, hey Anne, what do you think about Sasha and Marcy? I think this. Okay, got it. Where are the parents at? We're not gonna focus on them right now. Okay, cool. That's it. All right, great. Let's continue on with the plot now. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all you needed to do.
That literally just summarizes my thing too. Like, can you just because like I pretty much everything I asked for was just revealed in season 2. So I'm like, hey, with the planters, hey, can I just? Yeah, I already said it. Like, hey, can Hop Hop say something? Right? Can Hop Hop? Like, it's just to make the stories feel more, just a little more dynamic. Just like you really feel like everyone has like their own involvement and just yeah, that's what all just comes down to. Like, hey, can season 2 be a little more involved? Because I think like you can argue honestly, because yeah, you can argue like because it really is interesting how like season 2 does a really good job of like using what it set up in season 1, but then season 3 like not too good of a job. I think it really was just about implementing what it used beforehand, right? But
Huh.
I think yeah. I don't know.
Right, I
Oh,
think it,
dang it. Now we're supposed to be wrapping up.
yeah,
And
we're
I
supposed to
just
be
dropped
wrapping
my
up.
whole
I
point.
think it did it well for.
Yeah, I was like, now I
Yeah.
want to.
Yeah, I think we'll just end it off there for now. I think we can call
thank
it.
God.
Okay, cool.
We can call it a night.
Let's call it.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
on, and next time we'll be covering 3B and the finale.
3D. Yeah.
That's gonna be a long
Oh,
one.
we're doing both.
No, we'll split it up.
Okay.
We'll put in one
Alright,
recording. Say goodbye, everyone.
Okay.
All right. See ya.
Peace,
See
everybody.
ya.
See ya.